I was very interesting to me because I had been saying that I thought the reason the Dems lost for a while, a big portion of it was pretty much everything opposite of what she said, which I was like, I think the manipulation was bad. I think that uh, the like acting like too uppity or too like condescending to people and all this was a major issue. It was a big reason why the Dems lost. However, it didn't seem like that was her take, and I wanted to see, and so it inspired me to ask the rest of my fellow, my not me, but my friends that are lefties here, what they thought their reasoning was, and really dive into it. So got my friends here together today, and I guess we'll start with Tyler here. Tell us who you are, what you do, and give me your intro and what you think.
Oh, average debate enjoyer. I'm here to debate and fuck, and I ain't got no condoms. I don't know. I just think the Democratic Party's kind of in shambles right now. They're taking the few wins that they have, like Signalgate and certain things of that nature. Garcia, the Maryland man, and all this, and they're running way too far with it. They're turning that dead horse into IKEA meatballs, and pretty much anything else is just the party flailing and the worst people in the party gaining traction. AOC is the top-ranked Democrat right now, and she represents a lot of things that most voters hate. And I got a ton of polling data to show that, so I'm gonna get into all that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nina.
Yes, I was really interested to have this conversation because I think right now the Democratic Party is trying to find where its identity, I guess. Like, I think that a lot of ideas are coming out right now, but we're not really together on anything. So we're kind of in a transition zone. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but that's why I'm excited to have a conversation with everyone else here to see kind of what your guys' thoughts are on this. It seems like there are a lot of good positions. I actually would take the AOC position. That I think that she's doing a really good job getting out there. I think that Bernie's doing a really good job by like kind of boosting up her profile because he's kind of waning. She's being then brought up with all of that. Not only that, but she's also getting obviously experience doing all this stuff. And I think that like it's kind of like weird mentorship, right? Or not weird, but like a mentorship. And I think that's really important to be doing more. That's something why I support like having like maybe like age limits because it promotes stuff like that. Because Bernie knows he's not gonna be able to do this forever. So promoting voices like that I think is really important. But in terms of just like the whole party, I don't think that we really kind of know where we're at right now. So we're trying a bunch of different things, and I think that's a really good thing because clearly we saw that what we were doing before absolutely was not working, and we got Trump because of it. So definitely excited to see what's going to happen.
Fantastic. Hope to hear more. Shenandoah.
Yep. Hello. My name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and like fucking every single time I'm on a debate panel, I'm a huge dork, and I always fucking pre-write my opening statements. So I'm just gonna get into it. In today's America, perception beats policy, and the Republican Party understands this far better than Democrats do. Even when Democrats are right on the issues, they're losing the information war because they no longer control the media outlets that direct the narrative. From Fox News to TikTok, right-wing voices dominate the platforms where voters form impressions regardless of facts. The result? A public that distrusts material progress, misinterprets democratic policy, and remains indifferent or confused about key issues like trans rights or race. Add to that weak, uninspiring leadership at the top of the ticket, and it's no surprise Democrats underperform against what are, in my opinion, objectively terrible candidates. If Democrats want to win again, they need to stop assuming policy speaks for itself and start fighting, especially for the narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soy Pill.
Yeah, hi, I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays. I pretty much narrowed it down to two main things. One, I think that Joe Biden dropping out and Kamala Harris being replaced, or replacing him was one of the biggest issues. She was quite unpopular in the primary. She did not have a lot of time to present herself. And, she said that she would deviate not at all from Joe Biden's policies, which means that you're now the incumbent fighting against every negative thing that has happened in the last 4 years. Unfortunately, the things that she would change, child tax credits, home buyers tax credits, abortion policies, just even if they are popular policies, were not marketed well. And I kind of agree with Shenandoah. This is a media issue where it doesn't matter how good your policies are if you don't reach out. They were playing incredibly safe. They were vetting all of these different podcasters, influencers to an absurd degree, to the point where the only people that they could get on were very, very, very highly vetted, narrow people that no one really watched, like the Call Her Daddy or whatever it was. And as a result, the DNC right now is reaching out to more influencers and kind of caring a lot less about the fact that, hey, maybe we shouldn't vet people to this extreme degree because it matters how many people we talk to and we can't play 2016 civility politics. And finally, I think that they played it too safe in the sense that the biggest upswing of their polling was when they were attacking Trump, calling them weird and calling out all their ridiculous policies. And voters just did not understand how bad Trump would be for the country. You can see this with people Googling tariffs after tariffs get implemented. You can see it with every other policy that Trump's implementing that no one really understood the implications of because the Kamala campaign failed to explore just how bad it would be. Yeah, I think they just had a terrible, terrible messaging problem combined with a not so great candidate.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wick.
So, I think the question can be taken in a couple different ways. There's the question of why did we lose this election, meaning the 2024 election, and that's fair to discuss. But I think the more interesting question is why have Dems been losing ground in general? And I think there are two different answers here. They're related, obviously, but I do think that they're different. I think one of the problems that Democrats and the left in general has had over the last few years and why they have lost people starting, again, lifelong Democrats starting from 2016 that have been abandoning the party has because they have become the not fun party, the anti-fun party. They are the ones that will scold you, right? If you say a no word. They're the ones that will take you to task if you've offended someone's sensibilities and things like that. And look, I understand that sometimes you have to be a little bit of a scold, but at the same time, what you have done is a lot of people in the Democratic Party, we let the craziest among us snatch the microphone and lead the charge. And you have people saying unhinged shit that weren't in any real positions of leadership and power, but they were taken as the voice of the Democrats. And the right did a very good job of painting all Democrats with that crazy broad brush. And we just didn't push back enough, and we didn't fight back enough against that part. People need to see us policing our own more. People need to see us standing up against the excesses of the left side. One of my fears going into this is that we're going to learn the wrong lessons, and we're going to think, like I think two of the people who've said before me, like, oh, we just need to fight more. We just need to go more unhinged. We just need to do more unhinged shit. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. What gives me hope is that I am watching the right fall into many of the same traps that the Dems did back in 2016 to the present. With the rise of the quote unquote woke right and the little civil war that they're having within now, I am seeing that the right is beginning to dabble with a lot of the same tools that the more extreme Dems used that led to their electoral defeat, or was one of the major factors that led to their electoral defeat. And we'll see how that plays out. Long-winded answer, I know, but here you go. That's my answer.
Well, thank you so much. And Mr. Burns.
I missed the questions. The question just why the Democrats lost.
And then kind of like the state of the party going forward. What do we think's going on? How do we feel about it?
It's pretty broad, but as for why the Democrats lost, I mean, we should have had a primary. I think this is something that should be forced now, whether we have an incumbent or not. We should have a forced primary. If it means that our current incumbent is put under pressure, good. Maybe you should sharpen them a little bit. I think that it also is an opportunity to not only show the presidential candidate, but also other potential candidates for when there's going to be somebody else running in 4 years. The Democrat can run an incumbent primary different than another primary if they really wanted to like splice the hairs. If there's some way to fudge it in there, you could make it so 50% of all donated primary votes go to the general election candidate, or they could make some way to make themselves feel better about it. But having this process as a safety net to check in if we're going to keep appointing people who, in many households, are looking at assisted living due to the age at that where they're getting. I mean, I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that if your presidential candidate can't go through a primary, then they shouldn't be your presidential candidate. And having this check, I think, would be positive, honestly. And if the Republicans don't have it, then the Republicans don't have it. And I think we can still make it into an advantage. I also believe that Harris, as many other people have said here, was not somebody who was put through this process. And so not only did it, by avoiding a primary, we didn't get the check on Biden, we also didn't get to sharpen a potential replacement or have them go through that process. I understand this, if, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but, that's what it is. As for Harris herself, she didn't have any transformative ideas. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not saying she didn't have any good ideas. What I mean by transformative ideas is that the way Trump talks versus the way Harris talks, Harris will go out there and say, we're going to give you first-time home buyers a $25,000 tax credit to put towards your first home. Oh my goodness, isn't that great? And then you go over to Trump and he says, I'm going to build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap, easy, build. We're going to build. It's going to be cheap. And this easy delivery is a lot less policy wonky, and it's something that's also like birdshot. It hits everybody because build cheap, that helps everybody. If you're the construction worker, it helps you. If you're the person getting the house, it helps you. If the person profiting off the building, helps you. When you listen to Harris, $25,000 down payment for first-time home buyers. If you are going to be a renter in 5 years, well, then that doesn't help you. If you're somebody who's buying their second home, well, that also doesn't help you. And so the policy wonkery leading forward on the message, I understand it might be good for you and me to go, ooh and ah, look how policy wonk this is, how this is going to fit the GDP that way or this way. But most people don't listen to campaigns that way. And I think that when you have a limited time frame to deliver your message to the people, you basically need to be going like, hey, we have 90 days to deliver the message. It should be like baby's first footsteps, kind of a little bit. And not to be, don't talk down to the voter, but you need to be getting across, I think, a little bit more general messages. Past that, I also want to say that if you, I understand what Wick's trying to say when it comes to we need to check ourselves more, but I also don't believe that checking ourselves more really would have helped us at all in this election. Because in all the areas where we could have checked ourselves more, I don't see the Republicans letting up, and I don't think that's going to swing enough people in the key swing states. I mean, it might swing general vibes on the internet, but I don't know how much that's going to communicate to key states like Iowa or these other states. So I want to know, when you say, check our own more, are we talking about psychos on the internet, or are we talking about the people in the Harris campaign, and how does that communicate the votes? Because it's like one thing to say if we checked ourselves more, maybe that would make vibe a little bit better, or it would get a few of the crazies out. But Hassan was kicked out of the DNC convention. Okay, he was booted out by the DNC. Vosh was kept away with a 10-foot pole. Other people, any plop streamer that could have said anything problematic in history about Israel, or anybody who could have said something that would have been like in a really controversial music video from Mr. Kanye West or something, all those types of people were kept away. And so is it just going to be us checking gender stuff more? Are we talking about oh, well, if we're a little less crazy on the gender, are we a little less crazy on the trans stuff? Because I don't think the Republicans are going to let up until we're out there disavowing, saying, you know what, we're going to ban puberty blockers. You know what, we're going to ban X, Y, and Z. And if we don't get affirmative bans X, Y, and Z, Walsh is going to go out there and lie about the millions and millions of kids getting gender reassignment surgery. Whether we say it's going to be 5 kids, 10 kids, 11 kids, no kids, he's going to say it's millions of kids anyway, until we are completely disavowing trans people as part of a demonic movement and punishing trans kids. So I understand if somebody's going out there and say something crazy, but the Democrats, I think, dealt with most of keeping the crazies away, at least from Harris. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, I guess I'll just answer the question. But I think that, like, when I say police our own, what I mean is that it isn't so much the people who are saying, oh, we have this policy position, we're pushing for this policy position. I'm talking about the people who every time Trump spoke was like, he's Hitler. He's fucking Hitler. Look at him. He's Hitler. He's doing the Hitler shit. And we've been saying this since 2016. And
What is he doing right now?
People, like, okay, we don't believe you anymore, right? The boy who cried wolf is a apt analogy for what happened. There was an actual wolf. Look, Trump was actually bad, but because we had been calling every single person a Nazi for 8 or more years, it became hard for people to believe us when we saw an actual wolf at the door. When we saw an actual wolf out there, no one.
I think it was that, and not 5 years of lying about Joe Biden's decaying brain.
Wick, I actually have an honest question.
No,
for you.
nobody has. That's the actual trust issue with the Democratic Party. That
like
nobody
super
believes
big
the Democrats.
derailment of what we were talking about.
That's not really on topic here.
Yeah, it's silly. I listen to you guys all say messaging is the problem. It's silly. You cannot message away an 80-20 issue like people don't want trans women in women's spaces. Like, this has been rejected by the people. And here you say, oh, we just need to message better. And they'll suddenly accept that men's and dresses are women.
I just don't think Americans give a fuck, honestly.
This is the leftism that's poisoning the party that you guys are backing up.
No, wait. No, I'm a
grillism.
No, you didn't listen to what I said. I said don't give a fuck. I didn't even say, hey, check your pronoun. I said don't give a fuck. I'm a griller, okay? So when we're talking about this issue, it's one thing to, like, say the American people have this view on the issue. It's another thing to say the American people are voting because of this issue. These are two different things. And when you poll people on these issues, they might give those answers. But you also poll people like, hey, do you think these issues are too politicized? Are we talking too much about trans people? Are we talking too much about trans? And well, people say overwhelmingly yes.
I have those polls in my document. I have those polls in my document.
Trans issues are like 22 out of 22 on Gallup's.
This is a problem. See what he did? See what he was able to do? We were having an actual productive discussion, and he's trans, and suddenly you all jumped. Y'all jumped.
Nothing.
It was fucking wrong. You're saying fucking the problem. Okay?
Messaging it's fucking the problem. All we have to do is
Shenandoah, you had a question.
Hold on. Messaging was 5 years of lying.
This is a problem.
You cannot message your way out of lies.
Hold on, Tyler. All right, I'm gonna go to Shenandoah, but I then I'll speak to that. But I do want to say, like, I think that some of what he's saying kind of is true as like an outsider. I'm obviously not a dim, right? But it does seem like there was some polling that indicated what that them message Trump put out was a big one. I feel like there is a large segment of people that are like moderates that like see themselves as religious, and I think that like that kind of hurts. But I mean, I don't know if it's a derailment, but I do think that Wick kind of said something earlier as well. Is it seems like there's the extremism, and then like people want to double down on that versus like, you know, kind of what he advocated for. There just seemed to be a kind of a discourse between the people even here. I would even say, versus moderation. But I would say even then, like what Tyler's saying kind of falls in that camp. He's saying it's too extreme. You know, we need to go more moderate. I don't know. Let's go to Shenandoah here.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll just say my position. I'm actually fairly moderate within the Democratic Party itself. Like, I would probably say I'm more on the right-ish wing of the Democratic Party. And I often call myself a liberal and not a leftist for that reason, because I don't really entirely feel like I totally mesh with that. I believe that the Democrats should fight and be more militant, but I don't think that necessarily entails that they have to go all the way to the left or something like that. I think, like, being tough and, like, being willing to actually stand up for yourself and have some integrity would actually help some fucking Democrats win, even if those Democrats are, like, relatively milquetoast in terms of their political views. And I think that's the kind of leadership we need in the party right now. That's what I would like to see. And as I understand it, a lot of Democrats agree with me. There's, if I recall correctly, some poll taken shortly after Trump won where the majority of Democrats said that they wanted Democrats to fight more and become more moderate. And that's kind of my feeling as well, to be honest with you.
Can I ask you a question, Tyler?
Yeah. Oh, not me. Fuck.
Well, Tyler, I mean, like if anything, I feel like you're kind of like you were arguing with Wick about this, but I think this is kind of proving his point. And I think Wick tried to point this out, which is, you know, you can say, oh, this trans issue was really unpopular. Look at its 80-20, and the fact that Kamala barely talked about this at all. And first of all, gained numbers in the LGBT demographic. That's one of the few that she actually gained numbers in. And second of all, you will look at the right wing and how much they thought it was a big deal versus how much the left wing thought it was a big deal. And yeah, you're right. If you just talk about it nonstop, as the right wing was doing compared to her campaign, it plays really well. It's like that they them, she's for they them ad like worked really well. The hey, look how woke the military ad, it played really well. But unfortunately, and Dylan is right, like most people don't care about this. It's just if you just keep talking about it and pretend like it's a big issue.
Not somebody that surrendered their party over to academia and completely shot the working class voter in the foot.
Okay, I don't think that contradicts what I was saying, though.
No, I'm just kind of.
I don't even disagree with what you just said. I'm just saying the messaging of, hey, if we just blow this trans issue up on the right or on the left, like clearly plays well with the right. I don't think the left did it.
It's a majority that don't want.
It's a fundraiser.
Sure,
I don't think it's a vote getter. I think there's a difference between a fundraiser and a vote getter. And that's what I think the trans issue is for the right wing, is it made them fundraise a lot of money, which maybe helped them with other ad space and stuff like that. But I don't think it flipped people. I really don't.
Yeah, I actually do want to say that as like this is at least just my poll, and it might just contradict yours. I know that sometimes polls come out weird, but at least according to Gallup, trans issues were like the least important issue according to most Americans. They ranked 22 out of 22 things that they considered.
It was the economy, right? That was
the economy was by far number one.
Is that an exit poll or was it an issue poll?
I think it was an issue poll, but
I'm going with the exit poll. Right after people vote, they answer the exit poll. Say this is why I voted. I have them specifically in my document about that, and then I have 3 different polls. One of them showing it's a 79 to 18 issue. Even most Democrats don't want trans women in women's space.
I just don't think people care that much. Like honestly,
trans polls as much as the next guy.
Let me.
They might not care that much about this issue, but if you have 18 other issues that you see them lying to you about, and they all start to add up, your integrity goes down.
Lying to you about.
So yes, hold on, like Joe Biden's age.
Let me expand a little bit. Joe Biden's age too. I want to add like a couple others. I know that I've talked to some people that voted Republican this time that were like old school Democrats, and they basically said they felt like they had to vote Republican because they were like white males, and they basically are super ultra left on everything else. Right? They're like gay white guys, and they're all like, "Hey, I voted Republican because we felt like there's no place for us in the party as white men." I feel like that's kind of another extremist kind of thing that seems to be something that's pushed some people out along with the trans. Now, I don't know what kind of margin, but do y'all see anything along those lines as well, or no?
That plays directly into the media narrative thing. Like if you actually spend any time in these left-wing circles, there's really like the worst thing you'll ever see as a college campus might be like, hey, if you're talking about this POC issue, maybe a POC should talk about it, that sort of thing. And yeah, you get some crazies here and there, but the idea that the Democratic Party is not for white men is so ridiculous. And yet it is a very strong narrative on the right wing. And I see a lot of people believe it because of the right wing messaging. They're just much better at saying, hey, they don't give a shit about you because you're a white male. And just to take a step back from all this, I mean, with trans issue, white men issue, any of these identity politics things, what's really interesting is you don't see this as, oh, the right wing dominated this election. I mean, they did have a much better media game. That's true. But I mean, from 2020 to 2024, it's 20 million fewer people voted for Democrats, and Trump gained like 2 or 3 million votes. It wasn't like, a bunch of people became right wing.
But a lot of people did stay home.
It's a bunch of people staying home. And I think that does speak more, at least to a little bit, to Tyler's point of, people are just like, well, I don't think anything's going to fucking change. You're not talking to me about my working, life changing. You're not talking to me about my healthcare prices changing. You're talking about, at least at some point, doing nothing different. And then maybe, like Dylan said, doing a few things that might help very specific people in this very specific situation. Even the child tax credit, which is going to help anyone who has a kid, was not really spoken to many people in a way that I think was, reach them. And yet now Trump is saying, oh, we'll give you $5,000 for having a child. And I can immediately see how much more that is boosted in the media versus, actually technically more money to the same people. It was not presented the same way.
One of the problems I think that you're hitting at, and one of the reasons I would posit that a lot of people did stay home, and a lot of, frankly, it wasn't the leftists that stayed home. It wasn't the lifelong Dems, the people who were like pretty progressive. It wasn't them. It was the moderates. The moderates stayed home because the moderates, for whatever reason, couldn't discern a difference between Trump and Kamala Harris. And you could that there's a lot of reasons for that. And that's a failure of the Harris campaign. That's a failure of Democratic messaging. Harris not going they were they played it too safe. The Harris campaign. They weren't willing to take risks. They tried not to piss anyone off, and that pissed everyone off to an extent.
Wait, wouldn't that appeal to the moderates?
No, that's again. This is hold on, if I may finish. This is
Right.
what you just said, Nina, right, is kind of
Mm-hmm.
indicative of a lot of progressives think as moderate. Like, they appealed to the moderate voice in a way that a young progressive thinks a moderate thinks, right? It's like asking someone who's 80 years old to appeal to the kids. They're not going to do it correctly. It's not going to come off as authentic. It's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty poorly done. And that's
but
what
in my
the Democratic
experience, I
Party
feel
has
like
done with appealing
moderates
to the moderates.
tend to be like more voting along party lines. I don't know. Is that like actually like statistically true? I don't know the numbers on that. That just doesn't seem like that would make sense to me.
She won independents. Moderates got off the fence. That's why for the first time in 100 years, we see more registered Republicans than Democrats. Moderates made their choice, and they made their choice for Trump in a large way.
Well, moderates mostly stayed home.
No, moderate Democrats, right?
Moderate Democrats, those who were
okay.
center
Yeah.
left,
Yeah.
they
I thought you were talking
mostly
about
stayed
moderate
home.
independents. My bad. Misunderstanding.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think a lot of moderates stayed home is just like, I mean, as Soypil said in his opening statement, she did not distance herself sufficiently from Biden, and a lot of people also just didn't feel like, hey, this is going to be a really great change. A lot of Democrats were also like kind of disappointed with the Biden administration. Some were happy, but it's like the fucking R neoliberal guy, you know, who you fucking never get to talk to except on the internet. Most people were like, at best. And I also just think that Kamala, unfortunately, she just didn't really have that chutzpah of like a strong leader. As a lot of people have said, like, she's played it too safe. Like, they shut down the weird thing that Waltz did, and it's like, that should have been fucking drilled into hell, you know what I mean? That was strong, that worked.
I have
absolutely.
citations that refute this.
Wait, hold on. When you say the weird thing, were you talking about that guy's weird? When they were talking about Vance?
Yeah, when they were like
yeah.
referring to like Vance and stuff, right?
We're going off of vibes.
Yeah.
I'm going off of data here, guys. I'm looking at all this shit here. The Democratic Party right now in 4 polls is under 30% approval rating. If the election were held today, Trump would still win. Trump would still win an election right now with the economy in the shitter.
What does that have to do with what Shenandoah just said?
That's telling you.
Well, how do you? It would depend
I
who
didn't
the
disagree with him.
candidate is.
Trying to get
I
the
still
general.
think
Democrat
leadership in the Democrats are weak.
Well, let's be clear. I think that Soypil said something earlier that's just true. The Democrats didn't get shellacked, right? The Democrats actually, we lost by very, very thin margin. If it was a 2% difference in 3 states, we would be praising Chairman, President-elect, Dictator for Life Harris right now, right? Who would have led us in the communist revolution. But he like, so this idea that like people really loved Trump, just there are people who really love Trump, right? Don't get me wrong, right? But like the American public were like, yeah, I guess it's Trump this time. Now let's look at the polls today, and you can see people fleeing from Trump, right? The American public is fleeing from Trump and his positions. I'm looking at this data right now from Nate Silver from his Silver report, right, which tracks this stuff. Net approval on immigration is negative 2% from the start, right? Like it was 7% on January 21st that approved of his immigration platform. And now it's negative 2%. If we look at trade when he first took office was negative 2%, January 21st, 2025. It's now negative 17.7%. If you look at the economy where he was up, he had 6% approval, right? It's now at negative 13.5%. And inflation, which was negative 6%, is now at negative 24.7%. Across all these big issues that Americans care about, they are fleeing. Even his best issue, immigration, he's underwater currently on that. That's just the data. Yeah. So let's talk about the data.
One aggregate, if you pick the least accurate aggregate from last election and you ignore the most accurate aggregate,
we can go on to individual
polls. Look at the most popular aggregate. No, we can go to the most popular aggregate or the closest aggregate from last election and see Trump is over water in immigration. These 2 anecdotes that were unpopular are getting behind the mirror.
Hold on. In that aggregate, is he more popular with immigration or less popular when he took office?
Right now, he's less, but he's
less popular. Exactly. On the economy, in your data, is he more popular or less popular when he took office?
What does Trump have to do?
Wait, can we check the data from 3 months ago, please?
What does Trump have to do with this? I knew this was going to turn into a whataboutism about Trump the whole time. Nobody believes Democrats because they lied about Joe Biden's
I mean,
age.
even
you
Joe
can put
Rogan's
anybody in there.
Negative towards immigration policy.
It doesn't matter if they're negative toward it. This is a microcosm of this is a small snapshot in time. The economy's fucking went through the roof today. Trump just signed a trade deal with one of the 6 biggest economy in the world. We have 40 trade deals on deck, 17 of them about to be signed.
what was
you
it?
didn't watch it this morning?
No, I'm asking you if you know.
Yes, I
Just
know.
to be clear,
Okay,
like,
what-
I'm not here to
explain
take a
it to
fucking
us.
pop quiz. I'm not here to take a pop quiz. I'm here to educate you.
Okay, so you don't know.
if
Fair
you
enough.
can-
Got
yes,
you.
I know.
You
can
can't
save-
back up
you
your
can save-
points.
you
Doesn't
can
know what he's
save
talking
your-
about.
You can save
Got
your
you.
101 questions for after I'm done
Hold on,
speaking.
all right,
But
hold
I'm here
on.
to educate you on
Oh,
a
God.
broader issue here. Nobody trusts Democrats. You cannot continue to just gaslight and lie to the public and expect people to believe you.
So actually, see, that's a fun segue into what I wanted to go into. Like, so Wick, on your
Trump
show,
lied and they won.
like just recently, you literally saw Visora advocate for more. And I mean, I'm not like panning all Dems this, but I do think she represents at least a segment.
Visora
that,
is a
like, kind of
socialist. She's not a Democrat.
Sure, whatever. But she's on the left, and I feel like she would vote Biden. Probably voted Biden if she was here, not in Australia. But I feel like there's a few people I've seen that on the left that have also echoed similar statements about like, hey, we need to like lead people, we need to manipulate them, we need to like gaslight them. And I think that like the Biden thing is a microcosm.
I don't
people do feel
disagree.
gaslight.
I don't
You think
disagree that
that-
people don't trust the Democratic Party. That's just true.
Sure. Well, what I'm saying is, how much of you like? Do y'all think that's a problem going forward? And how do you earn people's trust
It's
back?
a huge
Because
problem.
I think that is a bigger.
One of the
Like, I think it is a big
that's,
issue.
No, that's a good question. How do we earn the public's trust back? And I think that the Democrats should earn the public's trust back by simply being honest. Like, hey, we fucked up here, here, and here. We are going to do better going forward, and we're going to be honest up front. And as Dylan said, I think it is opening. Every time we have an election that is a general election, we are going to have a primary, and we're going to honor that primary. Again, a lot of people don't trust the Democrats for a lot of reasons, but people don't trust Trump either. Let's be clear.
Yeah, Wick, can I actually ask you a question? This was the question I want to ask
Sure.
the beginning of your opening statement. So, you see, to me, I think at a minimum, the GOP is about as hypocritical or lies as much as the Democrats do, give or take. I mean, I think more personally, but like we'll just say as much for simplicity. I find it interesting that Democrats get punished significantly more in the media for this hypocrisy, and my hypothesis as to why this is that Democrats just don't control the narrative very well. So when they play a similar game, they lose, even if they're not even playing the game as hard.
There's a couple reasons.
Yeah, I think they capitulate a little bit too much as well.
Yeah,
this idea that Republicans control the media is a joke. Twitter is the seventh most popular social media. Twitter is the seventh most popular social media site out of the top 20 news sites online.
What's Fox News?
I'm talking about social media sites first. Hold on. Out of the top 20 news outlets,
podcaster?
Only 3 of them are Republican. The rest are Democrat.
Joe Rogan?
Yes, Joe Rogan's not right wing. I'm talking about news.
I mean, he has become more.
He's not. No, Joe Rogan's not.
He literally voted for Trump.
No. The purity testing laughing is not going to work. This is fucking purity testing. This is why nobody likes
Democrats. It's not purity testing. He's clearly he talks about it. He talks about it, my guy.
Joe Rogan is left wing. Joe Rogan is left wing.
He says
he's left wing. Joe Rogan is left wing. Joe Rogan is not a news podcast.
I can't answer Shenandoah's question because
you keep moving the goalposts.
Joe Rogan is not a news podcast. You guys deflected off my point.
You said independent media.
You're lying about how much influence the right has online. Joe Rogan's not part of the conversation. You are shifting the goalposts.
I mean, Nina made a good point. Hold on. Nina made a good point there.
Switch to water, dude.
Fox News is number one, though. Like, I mean, I don't like. I've never bought like as a conservative. I've never bought that. Oh, the right doesn't have any media say whenever Fox News is number one every year. Like, we're alternative. You're number one, bro. You're not alternative. I'm not buying that.
Daily Wire's up there too.
It's my assessment that essentially, like in the late 2000s and 2010s, like liberals were kind of more dominant in the media space, and that it's basically flipped backwards. Like Fox News is the largest cable news network. Newsmax has grown a lot. You have a lot of podcasters who may not necessarily explicitly be news, but they are very influential and they're very conservative. Facebook and Instagram, you got fucking Mark Zuckerberg, you know what I mean, who's like kind of openly aligning himself with Trump. You know, obviously X is like it drives the conversation a lot. A lot of news people are on X and so on.
Most news organizations, I won't say all, but it's a vast majority, take their reporters who report the news, They get their leads, they get their information. They are on X, right? It's not
Yeah,
how
and that's a
many
big
people
deal.
are on. It's who is on. And who is on, who is utilizing it. It's the people who are making the news, who are reporting the news, who are getting their headlines. They're figuring out what they're going to report on. The editors are on there. They're making like, hey, there's a lot of people on X talking about this. We need to report on this. So to act as if X and doesn't drive the narrative in even the mainstream media is just not true.
Social media. 7th most popular social media
site.
site.
Oh my God. So I don't.
So the other 6 are doing the opposite. And you're just hand waving it away. Like Democrats just don't do messaging. Everyone knows their message. It is not a messaging issue.
No one else
it's
here
the
is yelling. You're the
context.
only one yelling. Why are you yelling?
I'm trying to get in. There's a lot of cross. I haven't even got.
You won't even let me finish answering my question, Shenandoah. So Shenandoah.
I'm trying to get in there, man. There's 6 people saying the same thing.
You did ask the question. I remember
we're
what
30
your
minutes
question
in. Relax, calm down.
This,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
I
this isn't my first
sorry.
rodeo with Tyler. I know how he operates, right? He won't let you get in a point. You gotta make sure to write down what people ask you because he'll just interrupt you.
The guy that raises
fine.
his hand all the time.
But here we go. Shenandoah, you asked me, like, aren't we playing a losing game with this, right? Aren't we playing the fact that Republicans get punished more, or punished less, I should say, punished less for telling just outright lies than the Democrats do? I think that this
Can
plays...
I throw a quick thing in?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, just like a small caveat.
Please.
I do also want to say that I do agree that Democrats should try to be more honest. Like, this isn't me just saying, like, oh, we should just be as depraved as possible. I just want to say that, but go ahead.
And again, one of the reasons that they don't trust us is we have lied to them before. We've been caught lying, and that's bad. We should never do that. But the reason that Republicans don't get punished as much as Democrats do is because we in the Democratic Party have been fighting a war with our extremists. The right lost their war to the extremists. The fact that they don't get punished for their outright lies is evidence that they lost that war to their extremists, because the extremists is like the watchword of the extremists is it's okay when I do it. Right? They'll punish the Republicans' lie or the Democrats' lies all day, or the enemy's lies all day, but it's okay when they do it. They're doing it for the cause. They're doing it for the right reasons, right? They're lying for, for whatever they support when it comes to the MAGA movement. The MAGA, making America great again, protecting the white race, what have you, right? And they are willing to overlook Hegseth's...
Gibbs is hating this.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're willing to overlook Hegseth's...
This is a lot. Okay.
Hegseth's just brazen... mishandling of classified information, right? And then they're willing to overlook Gabbard and Radcliffe lying about it under oath, right? Lest we forget, before Congress in a hearing, just straight up lying about it, saying, no, there was no classified information in that thing. And then the leaks came out right after that, and they're like, oh no, that information is absolutely classified. It's insane. But that's just the kind of fight that they lost for the most part. And that's the playing field. We are playing in a field where MAGA can lie about literally anything. They can go... MAGA can shoot their voters' dogs, and their voters will still vote for them. That's just true.
Wild.
Hold on.
The only way
I do want to say that's interesting, Wick, because I don't know that I agree with you. I know that I'm the only.
I know you don't agree with me.
Sure, that's fine. But it's funny.
When we talk about the White House, he's totally right, though, right?
But it's funny to me because you say this, and in my head, I'm like, Trump was a pretty big step left for the Republicans, right? Like he's like pretty pro LGBTQ. He's like pro gun control. He's got like some other stuff, and so I'm thinking, man, we voted moderate this time. And then I hear you say this, you're like, the extremists are in control, and I'm like, well, somewhere there's got to be one of us has got to be real wrong here, and I don't know.
Let me address that real quick. Let me address that real quick. So when I'm talking about extremists, I'm talking about not beliefs but behaviors. Does that make sense? So you can have a weird extreme belief, but I don't consider you necessarily an extremist. It's how you behave, how you act, right? If you are you can have the most moderate milquetoast position in the world. Like, I think that women should be treated equally as men, and I'm willing to bomb a clinic to do so. That makes you an extremist, right? Like, that makes you an extremist.
Get that shit.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Nina. You were saying something?
Yeah, no, I think that like one of the big, I think maybe, I mean, Trump was basically like a, more liberal, like as an individual. But the thing is, ironically, it seems like he's not in charge. It seems like Stephen Miller is the one in charge now, because every single time we see him signing something, it looks like it's the first time he's ever seen it. And he spent, I think, 22% of his presidency golfing. Or on an interview, or live streaming and saying something. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on, like, unironically.
Can someone on the panel tell me how Trump is
I
more
think-
liberal? I'm very confused.
I am also.
Well,
Wild.
he's been very
more liberal
positive
than he cheats on his
LGBTQ.
So ignore exit polling data.
No, I'm
Ignore
just saying him
polling
as a
data.
person. I just don't think he
That
really
makes sense.
cares.
We're
But
ignoring-
the fact that the right has become so militant is not because Trump necessarily has this militant idea for it. I think that people surrounding him do and use him as a prop.
So we're ignoring polling data and exit polling data on trans people saying nobody cares, but then you guys are saying that people care a lot about Pete Hegseth.
We talked about different data. We just had
Yeah,
Hold on.
Republicans came out for about a week.
I
and
said
that
the
was
exact
bad, and
opposite.
country
I said
moved
that
on.
MAGA
No one
does not
cares.
care how Pete
No
Hegseth
one
mishandled
cares.
classified
No one
information
cares.
because they just, again,
Who is going to vote on that?
they might not vote on it, but if you don't think people
Then why the
care,
fuck
then
are you
you're
bringing
wrong.
it up? We're talking about the
Because we're talking
Democratic
about,
Party
we're
here.
talking about
It's silly
extremism.
to talk
You're
about
not listening to
Trump's
the conversation.
administration.
We're having a
Yeah,
conversation.
we're talking about the Democratic
and I am
Party.
trying
Did you
to,
not
I'm
know the
using it as
panel?
an example.
Wick, I'm
I've
trying to
made
talk.
a
You cut me off
statement.
again. Wick,
I'm
I'm
using
talking.
it
You
as
cut
an
me off
example
again. Wick,
in
I'm
order
talking. You cut me off again. Wick, I'm talking. You cut me off again.
All right, no, many new people.
This isn't your panel. I know you love
Relax.
debating on those,
Hold
but
on,
shut
relax.
the fuck up for a minute.
Calm down.
Christ.
No, you're angry. Relax. Deep breath. All right, shh.
I'm good. I'm good. I wanted
All
to
right.
get to something Dylan said too in his opening. It was really
All right,
interesting.
Hold
actually.
on. Okay, what? Wick, what were
This
you
isn't going to be
saying?
a hateful thing. Dylan actually made a really solid point in the beginning. So,
All right, go ahead. Say your piece real quick.
Oh
and then
damn!
we're
It
gonna-
worries me that we agree, but we'll see.
I'm a fucking left winger. I'm not a sycophant for fucking stupid leftist shit. So Harris had a ton of transformative ideas. It was her entire career. It was a smart on crime policy that she wrote an entire book about. She helped pass Prop 47 in California. Her fucking office did a bunch of shit behind the scenes to get it passed. All sorts of things. She was in the one of the leaders of this movement that we saw that was in cities decriminalizing certain things, letting people that go out with no bail for holding somebody at gunpoint the same day, which is how it currently still is in New York and California. So
Isn't she
certain
an
things.
AG? What do you
Yes, she was the.
She doesn't make laws. What do you mean?
I didn't say she made the law. You got to keep up. I'm not going to repeat myself. I got to keep
Oh my
going
God.
here. So what Dylan was saying here.
She's not okay.
In the 2024 primary, she ran on all this things. She got 4% of the vote. The problem
Thank
with
you for
Harris
the
wasn't she
$10,
didn't
Ben
have
Riley.
transformative ideas. It's the fact that she didn't
Why am I
denounce
yelling?
all of her
Am I yelling?
transformative ideas from the past. She just said, "I'm going to do what Biden did."
I don't think
So
I'm
she
yelling.
had
What
this
transformative
giant
ideas?
backlog.
They would rather lose
Smart
vote
on-
than win with a
three
real
options
social and
examples for
economic.
No, what did she
I
not
said-
denounce?
I mean,
Smart-
yeah, a lot of them.
Smart on crime policy.
There's a lot of reasons
go
for
ahead.
that we get into.
Yeah, go ahead, Dylan.
Go ahead,
And
Dylan.
3, ranked
So
choice popular
honestly-
vote
start with that.
systems
I'm
force
gonna
politicians
respond
behave
to it
differently.
with a different critique of
Oh, yeah,
Harris.
sure.
So it's not. This isn't even a defense of Harris. I have of the belief that people still by the time the vote was being counted did not know much about Harris. She was not given a prominent position in the administration. Nobody knew what she did for 4 years, besides that she had something to do with the border, which is not going to give her a particularly good representation in this environment. And so while there was reporting on her time as AG, and she did talk about her time,
Thank you for the
she's the
$2.
prosecutor running against a
Rick isn't
felon.
yelling, he's just
People would
running.
hear like little snippets and tidbits. I don't think the average voter knew much about that. And so I think that's part of the reason why she lost, is because that became her just being a representation of the status quo. Well, Trump then became once again an agent of change. So I really don't
100%.
think that record had much to
They
do with
used her
losing.
record against her. Trump. That's Trump's entire campaign. I
No,
watched these commercials.
I'm not saying that Trump didn't do that. I'm just saying it didn't end up being, I think, the deciding factor.
If I could also build on that, I also think,
Go ahead,
honestly, that people just do not remember this stuff. People forgot a lot from Trump.
Yeah,
let
I barely
alone-
remember it, man.
Yeah, let alone fucking Kamala's AG term. Like, it's just...
Remember the Muslim
honestly
man?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people forgot about a lot
Yeah.
of things about Trump. And I think polling data often reflects that, where it's like, oh,
Hey guys, everybody's
yeah,
voting based on the Roy Cohen scandal. Everybody knows Roy Cohen. Everybody.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
here's the thing about
Yeah.
politics.
Shannon-
It's the art of the present.
Yeah.
Like, it's the eternal present. Like,
Mhm.
it's impossible to predict who's going to win in 2026 or 2028 because
Of
they're
course.
going to
Well,
judge it by the month before the election. What happens within that
Yeah.
month or maybe 2?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
that's going to be what drives most of the voters.
Yeah.
I
That's not
was
to
going
say
to
that
build off what you said, Shenandoah. It's like,
Yeah, go ahead.
on one hand, it's what exactly happens like within the first couple months before. So because what Dylan said, Kamala becomes the new candidate, and it's like, okay, wait, hold on, who is this? Let's like remember everything. The right wing is able to drive the narrative on that by making people give a shit about the one time she said maybe she would provide a prisoner who also is an illegal immigrant with health care, which I don't think anyone should give a shit about, but
My
that is
favorite
a
Trump
thing that people
policy.
did care. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing people cared about for some fucking reason because they were able to blow it up. But also, I think you could see this reflected in the 2022 midterms versus 2024, how riled up people were when Roe v. Wade got overturned and abortion rights were kind of slipping away. And even though that was progressing and getting worse in 2024, people did not, it wasn't as blown up in the same way. It was just one of several things in a platform rather than, hey, holy shit, this is happening, everyone go out and vote 2022. So I think this is also, people just have short-term memory, and that's why driving the media narrative is so important. You have to blast this in their
short-term
face.
memory just keeps getting shorter.
Let me ask a question real quick. Soy Pill. So okay, I want you to listen how you describe that. I will never forget this moment till the day I die.
Thanks, Soy Pill.
And it was during the debate with Kamala, and I was in Wick's chat. We're over here, and he said that he's like, oh, they're trying to give illegal aliens in prison transgender surgeries, and we all laughed, like just, haha, this is some crazy Trump shit. Then we Google it, and that's what it says. And then you just now described it, and you chose to give them health care. And I feel like that's part of what maybe I think some of the people in the middle are saying. They're like, oh, this seems like dishonest. You're like, oh, it's healthcare. Well, okay. In one part, like, yeah, it is. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's pretty extreme. Like my taxpayers are paying. For like an extreme policy of some mind. Like you don't see how it's like somewhat dishonest in like some people's minds.
Sort of. I mean, I understand why you could view that as that way. I wasn't trying to present it dishonestly, but I think I
don't think you were. That's not what I'm saying. I apologize for doing that way.
Yeah, no. I don't think you're accusing me, but I see what you're saying, and I think the problem is you look at, let's say this was like a person. Let's take the extreme right wing example. It's like, a legal immigrant prisoner said they wanted to become a snake, and they asked for these scale tattoos all over their body, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can see how someone would see that and say like, why is my tax dollars paying for this aesthetic surgery? I think what the problem is that no matter how ridiculous it is, for if it's a trans person getting surgery, if it's this person saying I want scaly snake tattoos, this is like a person in prison, and it's like at most affecting little to no one, versus you could be spending this time hammering in the fact how Trump is openly saying he wants to raise all prices on foreign goods by 10 to 20% across the board, which is going to be hurting so many more people. And the fact that they were able to drive that home and say, look at this ridiculous policy, and you can think that's ridiculous. That's totally fair. If you're like, hey, I don't think I should give trans surgeries to this illegal immigrant. Okay, sure, maybe that's your position. But this is such an irrelevant point. And the fact that people cared so much about it was because of the media being able to blow that up, because that does sound ridiculous. And when you see she did say hey, yeah, I would give them healthcare if it's part of healthcare, then they're like, oh, I guess she supports that. Who gives a shit, though?
She said she wanted to change. She was bragging about changing the policy in California to make it that way.
This does go to the double
bragging
standard,
about saying we can give healthcare to illegals.
If you remember, in that same debate, Trump also said they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, right? It just made the fact that we chose to focus on one and not the other, and one is
that's
one,
what I'm saying.
One we remember and one we don't.
No, we remembered both, but the thing is, one was crazy because oh, Trump says crazy shit. I can't believe he said it nationally. And then he said the second one, we're like, oh, that's two crazy ones. Look at this crazy bastard. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, this one's true.
Yeah. And how many people didn't vote for Trump because they found out he lied about that? Zero, probably.
Almost.
It wasn't. At the end of the day, though, who's going to trust the Democratic Party that had a 35% approval rating on the economy, saying the economy is great by every metric? Voters are just stupid. Who's going to trust them when they start giving an economic message?
I think they're going to trust Trump now.
On a productive note, unironically, yes, I do think that we need to stop being thinking voters are smart. They're just random people. They're dipshits. They don't know anything. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but let's make a
messaging. You're stupid. Vote for me.
Easel to be absorbed by anybody. It's like having a teacher that does not assumes you already know what they're going to teach you. That's not how we should do it. We should be teaching them. We should be bringing up constantly exactly what Trump's doing, what he did, how it's affecting him. When Kamala says the whole thing about the tax credit, it's what does that really mean for me?
Well,
you know what I mean? I don't think people genuinely understand that type of stuff. And you need to
let me ask you this. It's a Republican policy.
Well, let me ask you this, Nina. Though, so like, I think part of what I'm like, you're kind of hitting at maybe the second part of what I was trying to talk about with soy is there's like a group of people that feels like whenever you'll try to explain it, it comes off as like uppity or pretentious or condescending. Like, you really think I'm too dumb to understand this? Like, that's gonna make
That's
me
fine.
even if you're right, it makes me not want to vote for you.
Yeah, no,
I don't really think that's a
100%.
large portion of
agree.
people.
We should not
No,
message like that specifically. Like, no
Yes.
leader of the Democrats
By
should be
that
saying
metric,
shit.
how is Trump's economy not good by every metric if the only bad thing you're looking at right now is the polling data?
Well, it's good in every metric.
That's what Wick was bringing up. He went through the polling data.
Hold on, our
point.
economy
Look at
is
the
bad
shrinking.
things of the Biden.
We had a
Oh, we
negative
were just talking about-
3%
okay.
growth in the
he's back.
GDP last quarter.
Did you look at the last month of GDP? Like the fucking skyrocketing.
Okay,
We had
I don't
a
want to.
skyrocketing stock
We're not talking
market.
about the GDP right now. I mean,
I think we should probably not measure GDP by month. Maybe by quarter makes more sense.
Oh
or
yeah,
by
that's more.
different
Yeah,
metric.
nice. So what about
That's
the
how
you
two
usually
quarters
do
that
it. That's
shrunk
literally
under
how you do
Biden
it.
in July 2024? The two
Well, hold on.
quarters back to back it shrunk under Biden. That was
Wait,
a good
hold on.
economy by every metric.
Is that what I said? And number
I
one,
mean, I'm
but
asking.
Biden's
You said by
economy
quarter,
was
so I'm
definitely
asking
better
you:
than
is that a
Trump's
good
economy.
economy?
There was much stronger investor confidence, much stronger consumer confidence. We had much more stable GDP growth. The GDP was growing until we had the shrinkage after the tariffs were implemented. Now, we could say what we want about the economy up to that point. There were still things that were weak about the economy when it comes to high credit card debt. There was still the problem with the housing crisis. But when Trump instituted the tariffs, he caused a capital panic. He increased the yields on 10-year bonds. Investor confidence still hasn't fully recovered. Consumer confidence is still in the shitter. And while the threat of recession has receded slightly, it's still looming in the background, and we have yet to see any measurable benefit from this tariff policy.
Almost every point you brought up was also true in the crash that happened between April and July 2024. And on top of that, consumer confidence dropped in the same way.
Self-inflicted tariff
But
policy.
hold on.
Yeah, well, this is what Trump ran on. So
Jeez.
there's a difference. One is mismanagement and denying inflation existed for 9 months, and the other one is what I ran on.
Well,
Yeah,
I think small businesses weren't.
Hold on.
That's
Can
not
I-
something that I just not brag about.
Yeah, I would also
Oh.
refocus it. I don't like. I don't see exactly how this ties to like what we're talking about with what the Dems.
I don't know. We got
The gaslighting.
Yeah,
It's the gaslighting.
I guess it's the gaslighting. But yeah, let's go back to the messaging thing. Shenandoah, you seem to be you were responding to like that comment I made about it being.
I hit him point by point, dude.
Where were you going with that? If you wanted to,
Can you repeat the comment for me?
Yeah, so I
because
basically was
so
saying
much
like
going on.
this where you're teaching people, this comes off as like pretentious, uppity, or like condescending, and I think that hurt. Like even if you're right, it makes people not want to vote for you.
Yeah.
You had a response to that. It looked like, and then we
Honestly, my response was pretty simple. It was just like, I really do not think that Democratic leaders or anybody running for higher office should be saying that, like, hey, look, you guys are stupid, because that also is like.
Well, that's not what I was saying.
No, I know you're not. Just to be clear, like, I don't want to like fucking completely strawman you. I know you're not saying like Joe Biden should just call like fucking like the.
I guess just to reframe, what I meant was simple messaging. Like I think of the way that like Trump speaks, like it resonates with people because he does speak in very simple terms. And I think that is like kind of not necessarily something that we should replicate directly, but take that as a lesson that we need to speak very plainly,
Simplify your messaging and make it so that just
Right.
about anybody with any level of education can understand it.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
it is also just hard to punch through. It's not even like a stupidity thing. It's just that there's so much going on, and the longer your message is, the harder it is to repeat it. I mean, it's a simple it's a simple messaging thing. Like the more simple your fucking slogans are, the better usually.
Come on.
Yeah, I was being a little aggressive, but yes, that is what I meant.
Kamala spoke at like a 4th grade level, and Biden couldn't speak. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Neither of them were articulate.
I get it. You don't like Biden.
But yeah, he was. I mean, I liked his year 3. His year 3 was actually pretty solid. I like that.
Well,
No, otherwise.
I think a good example of this is Nina. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but when Pete Buttigieg recently went on this podcast and explained,
yes,
it was very, very blunt. It was not condescending, and I agree with your point, Gibbs. That like no matter how well the economy has recovered, no matter how much better we're doing than other people based on inflation metrics recovering from COVID, if you just say, "Hey, I know you're struggling, but actually these numbers are good," yeah, that's horrible messaging. It's not it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if those numbers are true. People who feel the struggle, even if it is completely vibe space, even if their prices might be going up, but their wages are going up, like some people are facing some sort of hardship based on certain numbers, and some people are just like, it seems worse. And regardless, you can't just tell those people you're stupid. I agree, and that's why I think when Pete Buttigieg goes up and is is like, hey, this is how a tariff works. This is why you're going to be paying more. Like, it's a very basic kind of thing, and that's what we need more of. And yeah, Nina, you're right. You don't need to go up and just say, I don't know what the fuck, the Kamala crime, Trump safety, or whatever that stupid fucking slogan is. Although that does work with his base, but you still need to be able to say, hey, I'm going to explain this to you plainly. And that's why I think Kamala Harris needed to go more like these Pete Buttigieg podcasts and just have these very basic conversations about, hey, this is what the Trump administration is going to do to you.
Well, no, finish, and then I'll.
Yeah, that was basically. I think that I think you can look at this. They kneecapped a lot of harder progressive PACs and speakers, and like I think Dylan brought this up, where it's like, yeah, we ejected Hassan, we ejected Vosh. Whether or not you agree with that is totally up to you. The thing is, their vetting process for going on these different shows was very, very strict. They were very, very careful. Oh, like, is this guy saying like one thing out of line? Meanwhile, Trump is going on whatever the fuck. I mean, he started off his campaign in 2016 going on Alex Jones. Now he's going on whoever the hell he wants to go on because he knows
be on the next
people...
Kanye album.
Okay,
might as well be, right?
I'll make a strong statement right now on that note because I agree with you. I think that not going on a lot of these podcasts and being too careful and too cagey, right, did hurt the Harris campaign, and that should not have happened. Whoever
she didn't come off very
is just
relatable.
Should be fired and never allowed to consult for any campaign ever again. But I will say this: had she gone on Hassan Piker's podcast, okay, she sat down with him, and then during their discussion, called him an anti-Semitic freak that no one should ever listen to, and then said, "We don't want you anywhere near our party." 400 electoral votes victory for Harris. It wouldn't have been close.
It would help.
One of the things a lot of people were looking forward.
Pretty big.
I don't think
most people
she
know
was a
who
DA. She can be.
Why I'm saying that is one of the reasons I'm saying that is because one of the things that a lot of moderates were looking for is Harris willing to repudiate the extremists that are seen to be within her camp? Is she willing to speak out against them? And for the most part, she kind of wasn't.
Is this an unironic position?
It is an unironic position.
What do you think?
She needed and I'll tell you why. This is a sister soldier moment. You laugh, but this is what happened. Shut the fuck up. This is what happened to Clinton in the 90s, okay? So he had a sister soldier moment. He went into a leftist space, like a Rainbow Coalition dinner of some sort, right? And he spoke out against someone who was, at the time, speaking sister soldier, who had made some racist comments about white people. And he got up and he, to her fate, to the whole crowd, repudiated her. And this boosted his numbers. It made him much more popular. It made him much more electable. Harris needs that. Harris needed that.
I think it's a projection of strength.
I don't
more than anything.
That. Wait,
it's
one thing to say that.
I don't necessarily agree with everything with that.
Was that towards me, or was that towards
Dylan? I want to hear your response. I don't care what the rest.
Yeah.
So I'm not against her having a moment where, like for example, I hated that moment from Bernie Sanders back during, I think it was 2016. I forget. Those two people waddled on the stage over to the mic. I forget who those two women were, but they were trying to grab the mic like, we're demanding this time. He should have just told them to get off the stage and continue with his rally. He should have shown a certain amount of backbone so that he can not that, hey, look, I don't respect people's opinion, but this is my rally, this is my event. I can show a certain amount of control, and I think that what you're asking for is for her to show control. I don't know if it really helps to go onto another man's platform who happens to be the top political streamer on Twitch when the Harris's campaign's goal is to help try to boost voter turnout. They want to boost youth turnout. Hassan's popular with young people. I don't think in my mind that we're going to gain enough votes to make it worth it, or certainly anything that would actually
have lost a single
even if you gain votes, you're going to get 20,000 votes from the people who don't you're not going to change the outcome of the election.
100%.
I don't think you're going to gain votes.
This is the problem. Like you say, we only gained 20,000 votes. We only needed a few in a few states.
But Wick, who's the
most people don't know who Hassan is.
It's the Palestinian protesters that were in Columbia, Harvard, committing hate crimes against Jews, and the colleges that are now currently suing the Trump administration to push back against civil rights legislation. That's what the voters were paying attention to and hate. 78% of the voters in a March poll said they want Israel to stay in Gaza until they completely finish off and remove Hamas. 78% of the country. What other issues are 80-20 like this besides trans issues? It's like
But
Well,
why is it Harris's job? But that doesn't translate to it being Harris's job
Well-
to go to these protests and like condemn these people.
Yes.
That's not to say it wouldn't be politically
I'm not saying
beneficial.
going
I
to
just
the
don't
the
same
think
way
it's
that Trump has to
Columbia
condone whites, or
I'm
have to
saying
go out and condemn
going
white
to a
supremacists. No, it's not like-
representative of a group that are seen as aligned with the Dem, even though they're not. Like, let's be clear, Hassan Piker did not promote Harris to his he wasn't advocating for them to help elect Harris or anything like that. He didn't do a damn thing, right? A damn thing to get Democrats elected, right? Mike from PA, his little orbiter buddy, actively advocated people not vote for Harris, right? And Harris didn't say one word bad against them. She just didn't scream death to Israel enough for them. But here's the thing, like, the reason I'm advocating for this is I think that we need, as Democrats, to show that we're willing to stand up against what people feel are the extremes of our coalition and our party. People are tired. They're tired of this extremist movement. And I guarantee you that if she had done something like that, it didn't have to be exactly that. It doesn't have to be exactly Hassan Piker. It could be another representative. Pick one. Doesn't matter. Pick someone popular who can be painted as an extremist and throw them to the wolves. Sacrifice them on the altar.
How about we pick like an actual? Wait. Okay. If you were to do this, in my mind, you would pick an actual celebrity. Somebody, and I'm not trying to be mean to Hassan, but you would pick somebody who like most Americans know that aren't like under the age of 25, right? You would want to aim for the people who, on average, actually come out and vote on. Like these young people do come out, but not as much. It would be some celebrity who does say something stupid like "I hate all white people" or something, and then she just retweets and say like I don't know some. So I mean, I'm trying to imagine whatever this moment would be.
I would
engage
whatever
the
the
scene is. But
wait, can I fact check real quick?
Like I'm
Gibbs,
just
can I
all I'm
bring in a
saying
fact
is
check real quick?
I don't think that condemning anybody's favorite Twitch streamer or anybody's least favorite Twitch streamer would have changed the outcome of the election. It would have to be as a general presentation problem.
Right, and just to add on to that, Dylan, because I totally agree. I think calling Hassan out as anti-Semitic would not have won very many, if any, votes. But yes, Tyler, it is an 80-20 in terms of basic whatever your poll was. But 50% of Democrats or anyone who leans Democrats or even centrist think that Trump is favoring Israel too much. So like the idea that if we called out the Palestinian movement within our own party, that somehow this is going to like sway some like enough of a swath of people. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think going harder on things that people really don't like would be a better thing. And that's why I think Kamala should have called Donald Trump a retard on the debate stage. But I don't think that calling Hassan Piker an anti-Semite would have helped.
Well, you're ignoring.
Before you respond, hold on, Tyler. Before you respond, I also want to engage with what Dylan just said, because I think he presented an interesting dichotomy, right? He said, you brought up the going after Hassan, and I think, and how like nobody over the age of 25 is going to know who that is. And that's an interesting thing to me, because on one side, we have what like a lot of people are saying, oh, the right took over the alt media. They're like really good at this. We need to do more of that. And then you see them trying to like manufacture this with giving Gavin Newsom a podcast, et cetera, et cetera. But then at the same time, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, yeah, Hassan might have actually been a good one to call out because he is an extremist and not very many people know him, and it could be like good branding. But at the same time, it's like, do you really want to like is this the market you want to engage in? Like, how do you manage these things?
And I'll answer your question.
While like calling him out versus like a celebrity who's gonna have way more name value. Like, what do you?
I will say that if there is a celebrity you can point to that you think would be better, fair enough. I'm open to that discussion. My point here is that you pick someone that is pretty popular, but that isn't going to vote for you anyway, really. Who isn't like Ilhan Omar or someone you have to work with in Congress, right? But is someone that is sacrificable, right? And a lot of people will say things like, well, we don't want to alienate these people, the pro-Palestinian people. Let's be clear.
You want a fall guy? Is that what we want?
Yes, unironically.
Well, like organic. He's like organic, right? Like,
but if I can finish, obviously, that isn't the only point of failure of the Harris campaign. There was multiple points of failure. I don't know if just that would have changed the outcome at the end of the day. But I am saying this as a general rule going forward, that the Democratic Party needs to stop being scared of its extremists and needs to call them out and needs to become and brand itself as we are going to stand up against our crazies. Look at Trump. He's bowing to the crazies. Look at
That's
us.
my point.
We're going to stand up against the crazies.
That's
Well,
my
wait,
point.
why?
We're just
If
disagreeing
it's
with how
working for
crazy
Trump,
it is.
then why
We
shouldn't we
just
bow to
kicked
the crazies?
Hassan out of the conference a little harder. If Harris personally escorted him out, then she would have won the election.
Again,
Again, this is a
if,
W
if
point.
If-
for
hold on,
fucking
stop.
WWE style.
If Harris had showed up,
that's already
no one
politics.
covered
Somebody did that.
Hassan getting kicked out because Hassan, unironically, Harris didn't do it. If Harris had done it, you would have had Fox News cover it, CNN cover it, MSNBC cover it. They were absolutely covering every single show that Harris went on, every single interview she did, every single talk she did. The news organizations were there. So yes, Harris, one of the benefits of being a presidential candidate is being able to get the eyeballs. So you pick someone that maybe people don't know too much about, but you can frame the person, right, as super anti-Semitic.
Okay,
super
what
crazy,
happened? What happened?
Which you can
okay.
with
Let me throw this up to you. And this is the general problem. What happens with Harris walks up to Hassan? She says, "Hey Hassan, you're acting crazy. You can't say what you've said about Israel here. We stand with Israel. You have to lead."
Doesn't have
And
to
then
stand
she
with
says, and then he says, "You lapped up all those black kids. You did X, Y, and Z. And then all the camera shots is going to be left wingers, maybe showing her boss girl moment. It's also going to be showing genocide Joe, genocide Kamala, bombing the kids. You're failing on X, Y, and Z." And my question is, do you think Harris is enough of a, good candidate, good at messaging in
If
that
Ethan
moment
can
to
beat
make this a
Hassan,
win?
Harris could beat Hassan.
Well, that's
I
not
would go
necessarily
to,
been
If
go to
Ethan
litigated.
can
Mehdi
beat
Hassan.
Hassan, then Harris can beat Hassan.
Mehdi
That's just
Hassan
true.
at MSNBC is a better example because he was on the air saying pretty much the damn same thing. And no, it didn't need to be Harris personally. It needed to be the party because at this time, again, we had Columbia going on, Harvard going on, UCLA going on. There were people illegally protesting and holding buildings. Many of them have been charged. The charges were dropped. Alvin Bragg dropped almost all the charges, I think, but 12 cases. Everyone else's charges got dropped. A bunch of people that were working with these people, no charges were even brought against them. Almost all of them got away with it. There's 2 people right now that were in Harvard that beat the shit out of a Jewish student, and they were facing assault charges, and people are trying to get those removed at Harvard off of the students. The fact that this was going on, it needed to be stood up to by the Democratic Party. And to Wick's point as well,
She was constantly talking about her support for Israel, going out and condemning anti-Semitism, and she was. I mean, what more was she supposed to go out?
They
for?
condemned all the
Rafah.
camps. What did
Also
you
say,
want?
I really
don't go into
think,
Rafah.
I really don't think that just condemning Hassan alone
condemning
would mean much.
anti-Semitism and not go into Rafah. These are 2 totally separate things.
You need to come out stronger for Israel to take those
I
people.
honestly
Party
feel like even if she
registration's
did
huge.
condemn Hassan, I feel like people just wouldn't take it very seriously. I feel like even if you had the scapegoat, like just because Democrats aren't pushing that messaging well, even if she fucking kicked Hassan in the nuts, I just feel like the Democrats wouldn't be able to get people to believe her that she truly fucking actually.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to have that type of energy. I thought you were being a little bit more metaphorical when you said Hassan. I didn't realize you meant literally Hassan when I said base.
Hassan
Just
is
make that
someone
correction.
Wait, I want to piggyback up what Shenandoah said because that's exactly what I'm talking about when in the sense of, first of all, Wick, I don't doubt that I'm sure if you poll a lot of maybe independent to right-wing voters, you'd see certain people thought Kamala was, and I know this is true, people on the right thought she was too extreme, like she's too progressive, which is silly because if you look at her actual policies, she is not at all too progressive. It's very, very, very milk toast. However, it's because of the messaging machine that they're able to say, hey, you clearly aren't calling out these crazies. And the idea that you think this would work, I think is silly because even if she did do that, which I don't think would have changed much, but even if she did, the messaging would not be, hey, from the right, I guess Kamala isn't so crazy. I guess she isn't too progressive. It would be Kamala feigns outrage at the extreme left wing, knowing that her policies are still extreme, right? It's all about this media machine that's going to be able to spin it.
Respond to that just
briefly. We've had these types of adjustments in Europe too, where for example, there's it's really, really big on immigration. It's a different issue, but Geert Wilders, part of the reason he performed so well in the Dutch electorate isn't because Geert Wilders was some election mastermind, is because once the entire electorate shifted to the right on immigration and the general consensus was, I guess, the right were right on immigration. Well, if you're voting on immigration and the right are the ones who are right on immigration, you go to the king of it. You go to the person who has always been talking about immigration, who's always been talking about this issue. So if the Democrats come out and say, you know what, actually, trans women aren't women, trans men aren't men. We don't care about this anymore. pass whatever laws you want. You make them have to do this on ID and we completely jump on the Matt Walsh train. All that's going to happen is like, oh, so the Republicans are right. Well, then they should be the one making policy on this. I don't think it's going to lead to Democrats.
Right,
out of
Dylan.
nowhere
That's what
making
Gavin
policy.
Newsom. That's what
That's-
Gavin Newsom did, and is Gavin Newsom polling well with moderates?
Yeah,
Is
that's
Gavin
not what
Newsom polling well
Gavin
with Dems?
Newsom's
Gavin Newsom came out and had a
okay?
less
No
than
one
woke
trusts
stance on
Gavin
trans sports,
Newsom
right?
Because
You guys
Right,
are going
exactly.
far
That's what
left,
I'm
far
saying.
right here.
Is
The
someone
middle
who
ground,
is a lizard
70%
man
popularity.
who's wearing a
70%
suit.
popularity for liberal values for trans people. Let people live how they want to live. 70% popularity. Saying that they need to be in the same spaces as women when they're in privately, that went too far. They needed to reel it back. And when they,
And
Hold
would
on,
Gavin
you got
Newsom
3
agree
months.
with that?
Hold on.
Tyler,
Hold on.
you want Democrats to not be hypocrites and have values, but you also want them to switch every single position to what is like the median popular idea.
No, just
And
that goes too far.
I
Can we
honestly
just
think
have a
that, like, this
temperature
blank
check
strength
here?
is really important.
Just a
especially on,
temperature
like,
check.
salient ideas.
Who
That's an
thinks
interesting take.
that the Democrats, whoever is the face of the Democrats, whoever it may be, AOC, Josh Shapiro, whoever becomes kind of like the de facto leader of the charge for 2028, for 2026, etc., who thinks that they should call out the extremists on the Democratic side? Really? So you don't
call them
Depends
out.
who they
Well,
are.
anyway.
All of them
I
for
think
every
this
issue.
is the problem. Okay, we've hit on it. This is a problem. The fact that all the hands here didn't shoot the fuck up is an issue. And I think that one of the issues that we have are Democrats are seen to play footsie with extremists.
Well,
And it
do you
makes it
mean
really
to-
hard. If I can finish, and then I can let you finish.
Go ahead.
Like, it becomes really, really hard for people to when we say, well, we're not that extreme. When someone asks a basic question like that, like, hey, are you willing to stand up against your extremists? And people are like, it really doesn't sell the message that we're willing to that we aren't an extremist party. It's a problem.
Well, first off, I'm not running for president.
And
And
we're gonna
second
need
off, when
that,
you
right.
say extremists, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what that means. Are we talking
Right.
about people who have politically unpopular positions? Or are you asking me, am I going to stand toe and toe with somebody who wants to bomb some sort of political event? Of course, I'm
Right.
not going to stand toe and toe with some bomber. If
kinda
that's
why I
your
was
question,
like,
it's a
"Yeah, it
really wild
depends."
question. But if you're asking me, like, am I going to
Yeah.
stand with somebody who wants to completely abolish the death penalty in all instances because he believes it's a sin against man or something, and therefore, then yeah, I'll stand toe and toe with that person because that's a value I generally agree with, whether it makes me extreme or not extreme. Maybe I'll stand toe and toe with somebody who we should stand on our values and principles, because if we just look like flimsy flip-floppers who are cheap and we just go where the polling goes, then when the American people turn a certain way on an issue that's good, it's in our favor, it's within our values, we won't be there to receive them.
Let's go to Nina here real quick. I know you're trying
Yeah,
to
no,
get
that's basically what my question was going to be as well. It's like, what do you mean by extremists? Like, obviously, if people have more to the left views,
People like Hassan
like,
Piker, I gave you an
I
example.
don't.
Can I piggyback off of that? Like, okay, so for
Well,
example,
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off completely. I didn't know you had more to say.
Oh, I
was
was
gonna
just
say,
was going with what Dylan said. So yeah, you can go ahead.
No, that was fair. Actually, I just wanted, like, for fun, I was just gonna ask Wick, like, am I an extremist? Because, like, I'm somebody who,
I
like,
don't know
very
you enough.
often is. That's fair. Like, I was just gonna say, like, I'm very often, like, very militantly anti-Trump. Like, I think what he does is fucking horrible, and I'm like very, very open that, like, honestly, I think it's treason and they should be fucking put on trial. Like, I'm fucking awful about that. But also at the same time, like, for a Democrat, like, I'm kind of centrist in the Democratic Party, like center right.
So
Like,
I
I'm not
think-
really like a socialist. You know?
I think that when I say extremists, I'm talking about Hassan and people like Hassan. I'm talking about Mike from PA and people like Mike from PA. I'm talking about that kind of wing of party who thinks it, like, who have advocate the people who are firebombing Teslas, I should say.
Well,
the people
okay,
who are
okay.
shooting at Trump, right?
Can
The
I
people
ask
who are,
you?
Can we name
right,
an actual
advocating or
extremist that
making
matters?
jokes about
Wait,
that?
Wick, this is
right?
important.
And I
Wick,
want to
this
come
is
back to
really
that in a
important.
second. That's
You
go ahead.
have to name an extremist that's important. Like, for instance, Luigi. That's a extremist that killed somebody who, did an instance of what people could describe as actual terrorism. Nobody knows who Mike from Couch is, okay? Nobody cares. What people care about would be an actual political extremist, like a bomber or a manifesto writer or some thought leader who said something crazy like all white people are the devil. That is like, for example, Luis Farrakhan, or something where you could point to some extreme, even though Luis Farrakhan is not somebody I would call like a leftist extremist. But my point is, you're supposed to be able to point to somebody who I think people know, and Mike from like these streamers, nobody gives a fuck about.
Yeah, it'd be
Okay?
really
Like,
weird if
somewhat for the Democratic
Kamala
institution.
Harris
This is a
pulled out
microcosm.
Mike
It's
from
the
PA.
issue. Anyone that
Hold
says
on,
racism
hold
equals
on.
power plus prejudice as an extremist.
Well, I also want to touch on what he just said here. I want to present you with an alternate scenario, right? Because I think part of the Democrats Party, like from an outsider perspective, is it feels like everything's manufactured. Like I see Gavin Newsom's podcast, and it seems to me like it's very like manufactured, right? But then you mentioned Hassan, who I think that he's I'll get to. Like I think he's basically just a speaking point for like the Dems, like right, like it's like one person removed. That's what it feels like. And I mean, maybe it's because he was the governor. That might be like some grace on that. But like with Hassan, he's very like organic. Like I believe Hassan believes what he thinks, right? Like if you watch like a Tim Pool, right? I believe Tim Pool is probably getting, if he got paid for Russia, he's probably believes what he's thinking. Or if I watch Joe Rogan, he's probably believes what he's thinking. It's like an organic thing. And
Why'd you say if? It's definitely true.
Sure. If like whatever. Like my
He got
point
paid
is,
by Russia.
I mean the beliefs. Like my point is, it feels like these people all on the right, like are middle. They're like very like organic, right? No, Hassan, even though he's on the left, to me has that feel. Wouldn't it like it might be the opposite be true? Have her going on that and go like and maybe not alienating these people, going, oh, he's a crazy person. Maybe like having a conversation where, yeah, I think you're wrong, but I disagree. Let's have a convo about it, and then leaving. You don't think that could have maybe emboldened her to like a whole new market, as opposed to what you're saying?
You could have a moment where she looks like, oh wow, Harris is flipping out at this person who's actually acting quite polite in person, and she's like, it could be like uncouth to the voter, which isn't like a moral condemnation; it's just the electability question.
Yeah, and we'll also fight the crazy accusation all the time.
I'm willing to bet a not inconsiderate sum of money that would have never happened.
Well, I want to piggyback off of what Admiral Gibbs is saying here, because look, if your idea that like if she went out and yelled at him for being anti-Semite would have won over votes or called out these extremists versus whatever going on his podcast and somehow like indicating in some degree that these Palestinian protesters, a lot of which who stayed at home, might have a chance of some sort of like degree of changing policy once she got into office, or that just, hey, no matter what, I understand that you're upset about what we're doing right now, but look how much worse Trump is going to be. I think that at least I don't think is going to reach a lot of people, but way more than calling out Hassan specifically, especially for someone who is like already anti-electoral and probably isn't promoting a lot of his people to vote for her. I think that at the very least, you look at Joe Rogan and when Bernie went on, and it's like, hey, like people who thought this guy was a crazy socialist and they get to hear him talk in a unscripted fashion for 3 hours, say, wait, maybe this guy's exactly like Pete. Maybe this guy at the very least is reasonable, and I might be able to relate to him in the same way that if Bernie went on and just said, oh, Joe Rogan, you're an extremist, you're a lint rolling brain dead chimp, like that's not going to do shit. Like it's going to. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback off the piggyback. I also think that whether you hate Hassan or whatever, he does tend to want to appeal to moderates, because whether you think that's a funnel into being more extreme, whatever. The thing is, he would be very polite to her, and he would definitely mask on very much with her, and I think that absolutely would have helped her campaign.
I 100% guarantee you that if she was seen as cozying up to Hassan Piker, she would have lost by even further. It wouldn't have just been 2%
I don't think people know.
But
who would they be losing? Who would she be losing?
She would be losing anyone who sees as a problem that the Democratic, who suspects that, maybe Kamala isn't telling me the truth, that she's not an extremist. Maybe she's lying to me, right?
Like, on the flip side, you saw Trump go on
Didn't the Jews overwhelmingly vote for Harris? Like, isn't that how that goes in the polling results?
I don't have the Jews overwhelmingly vote for Harris? I think that less Jews voted for Harris than voted for Biden. She lost Jewish votes.
That's almost every demographic except LGBT.
Literally.
You brought up the polls though again, right? I'll keep bringing up the polls. Tyler especially has done this. Has brought up the polls in a few minutes. I think like a big criticism from the right was the polls are all wrong, right? And like I felt like, how much do y'all think biased polling has played into this? I'll give you an anecdotal example. I got a call here in San Antonio, and I was getting called, and they were asking me the questions. I answered all the questions, and then at the end, they're like, "Well, what is your ethnicity?" I'm like, Hispanic. They're like, "What party did you vote for?" I was like, Republican. They're like, and what do you identify as? Like, I was like, white Hispanic. They're like, oh, okay. Well, we already have too many white Hispanic Republican voters in this area. And I'm like, in this area, I'm probably all of them. Like, because it's San Antonio. And so I'm like hearing this, and I feel like maybe these are like polls where there's, variables wrapped out. They're not good polls. How much do you think individual, like, polling, like, the polling wasn't accurate? What do you think happened here? Like, why were they? Because y'all seem to rely on the polls a lot more than the Republicans.
Polling was great.
No, wait. What's wrong with the polling? Oh, first of all, speaking of polls, the Jews voted overwhelmingly for Kamala. It was like really high. So I think going out and calling out anti-Semitism was not
it was
what
only
she lacked.
What we're talking about was only anecdotally within New York and Pennsylvania. Generally, it wasn't nationwide.
Pennsilvania, the state that was keystone to us winning. Yes, that's
yeah,
a problem.
But it wasn't nationwide.
And here's the thing: again, there's a few things that are at play here. No one single issue was going to change this because it was a multivariate problem where multiple points of failure, where none of it was going to, you can't just fix one, you can't just plug one hole because there was leaks all over. It was like Swiss cheese of problems where
don't start with this associate's degree shit with me, Wick.
Right?
But it's everything's fucking multivariate.
but what I'm trying to say here is that one of the problems that Harris has, and the Democrats still have, is that they are seen as a party that that plays footsies with extremists, that doesn't police its own, that allows the crazies to take the mic, right?
With
moderates, with moderates,
so,
not
right.
I'm a central left Dem.
But why are what you're saying?
But
I get what you're saying.
But what I'm asking
she should also condemn President Sunday.
Well, you know what, President Sunday, Hassan has millions of viewers. Let's be clear. Right, Sunday has tens of viewers. Okay, what
we're getting at, Rick, is why do they believe that? Why do they believe that? What did Kamala do that indicates that she is siding with extremists?
Can you name an extremist group she called out within the Democratic Party?
Do you answer my question, which is what did she do to indicate that she's siding with them? That
not
she is
calling out the extremist groups in the Democratic Party.
Like who?
Like Hassan Piker. Like
wait. No, wait. I need to stick on this. I need to stick on this. Rick, do you think that if I ask the average Republican voter, they will say, I think Kamala Harris is extreme because she did not call out my favorite Twitch streamer, Hassan Piker? I know who that is. I know who that is. It's because she didn't call him out.
No, what they will say is, I think that Kamala Harris is lying about being a moderate. I think that she has extreme views. I think she has extreme views when it comes to Jewish people, with extreme views like the Columbia protesters, extreme views like all these people. What Hassan is, it's a symbol. He's a stand-in. It doesn't have to be Hassan. It could be someone else. It could be pick a celebrity that's bigger. Fair enough. What it has to be is someone who's representative of a group, and they won't use the term Hassan. You guys keep retreating to this position where no one knows who Hassan is.
Wait, Dylan, please. Dylan, I have to respond to this. Dylan, please.
They hit you with the bad faith.
The problem is not she didn't call it Hassan specifically, or she did not call out these people that Hassan represents. The problem is that the media is able to drive this narrative that she is extreme because she sides with these things. And then when you look at what she says and what she does, this is just not materially represented. So why at all would calling out these people have changed anyone's mind if they can just lie about it again? That's the whole point.
Because it would have made the lie harder to sell. When they could
just lie about blatant reality.
That matters. There's a reason why some lies take hold and stick, and others do not. It becomes
cats and dog
credible.
That stuck. That was literally just completely false. And that drove votes. I don't see what you think is going to happen. This is.
Hold on. How many votes do you think?
Wait, do you think that she should have thrown trans people just completely under the bus, been all trans people are fucking crazy?
Even once in all.
No. I'm using it as an example. Obviously, I don't think this is your opinion. I'm just asking you. If you're talking about capitulating to them, just lying about your position,
hold on.
Should they have done that?
I'm doing the opposite of saying capitulating.
Because I just think it's an unwinnable battle. I think it's an absolutely unwinnable battle.
Counter that lie by showing an example of you being willing to call out and fight extremism on your side.
Right, and
she was not able to do that,
and then
so
you
she
said
had no
Hassan
defense
Piker
against
or the
that
Columbia
lie.
protesters, and then we showed that she was not being anti-Semitic, and actually Jews overwhelmingly supported her. So one, I don't
less
think
Jews supported her than supported Biden. She lost in that metric.
She got less votes than he did, bro.
She lose them at a higher rate.
Percentage. Percentage. I'm not talking total. I'm talking percentage.
All right, Tyler, go ahead.
All right, just because I didn't want to yell over anybody here. Wicket's again pretty right here. So if you look at this, what Soy Pill's talking about is the size of the parties and what the parties look like. But since the year 2022, the Republicans have had the party advantage, according to Gibbs, which again was in my citation document you all could have read. And at 1 year, they were up 3 points. Yeah, 2023, they were up 3 points. This shows that their policies were unpopular. Not the messaging they were doing in the last 3 months. Not Kamala Harris, who had 160 plus bills in her years in the Senate, who was the number 3 and the number 1 most progressive senator the 2 years she was in the Senate. who had a big track record, and again, she was painted during the election as this, who had a big track record of running on Smart on Crime, wrote an entire book about it, led her time as the DA about it, push as a senator for it, push equity policy. An extremist isn't a single person here. An extremist is extremist views. Anyone that says racism is power plus prejudice is an extremist. That is the anti-white movement people are talking about that was embraced by the party. It's not the party itself, it's these academic movements.
Anti-white movement people are talking about?
Yes.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier.
I didn't hear about that during the election.
I definitely didn't.
No, it came up in the panel like a little bit ago. Someone brought it up.
All right, but like, who's like the people voting on this?
You might
are
not
not
have been here yet.
Democrats who sit out. The people voting on this are the people who like apparently think this is a huge issue. That I mean, I haven't heard anyone say that since like 2018. And as much as I disagree with that concept, it's like this is not what Kamala is running on. And it's like, did she have to come out and say that? Oh, actually, black people can be racist. Do you think that was what made it so that she didn't win because she didn't call out people in academia?
No,
that's what I'm saying. It's like who cares? Like who cares? And the answer to who cares is apparently people on the right who get these like information bubbles and they're like, oh yeah, Kamala Harris is anti-white male. Like Gibbs, he has friends that thought that, which I think is ridiculous.
Both sides get a chance to speak, and then the people that don't agree with either yet listen to both sides, and they say, you know what? Trump is closer to reality than Kamala Harris on these issues. And maybe she's not talking about him now, but she has a long career that she's just stopped talking about him 6 months ago. So
I was just gonna say, like, I guess what's just so frustrating to me is like, fucking Republican congressmen could say some of the most wild shit I've ever heard in my entire life that I would get banned off Twitch if I tried to repeat it here. But like just some random Twitch streamer or TikToker like says insane shit that even maybe I disagree with, and that gets blamed on the entire party. And I really do think the reason for that is just like the media environment is busted. I was gonna ask you at the beginning, Wick, is like, okay, you said that the reason that the Republicans don't get called out on much for their lying is because they have fully embraced their extremists.
Yes.
I mean, like, okay, this is a somewhat sarcastic question, but it actually has a point. Is like, do you then think that like the fucking Democrats should just embrace their extremists too? I don't think that. I don't think that's a good idea. But it sounds like if that's the reason and not the media environment, then like the thing to do for Democrats to get themselves elected is to just drop the act and be fucking extreme.
Well,
but I think it's the information.
Sure,
we need like an NPR style Proud Boy movement.
Yeah,
I can answer you. Sure,
the Pride Boys.
I can answer your question. I might take a minute, so bear with me. Right. So we got multiple issues at play here. Right. One of the reasons a lot of MAGA and a lot of people embraced MAGAism was a response to what they felt was, and again, we can argue whether this is true or not, what they felt was the rising extremism that was taking over the left. And they we have to fight this. We have to fight fire with fire. And so now I see the same thing happening, oh, and then Trump got elected in 2016, and the Democrats did the same thing. They're like, look, the rising extremism is over here. We have to embrace our own extremists. It's called reciprocal radicalization. It's a process that happens in a lot of fields, a lot of times, and it just keeps ramping and ramping up.
Embrace extremists in 2020?
I got to actually finish the point before you understand exactly why I'm saying this, right? So give me a moment, please, for the love of God. Okay. So when we have this situation, right, that's going on, there are a growing group of the electorate in America who wants this to stop. They don't want this. They don't like this. They're holding their nose and voting for whoever they think will stop the extremism, right? And they're trying. It's growing at this point, right? I don't know if it'll continue to grow, but at this point, I think it is. One of the party, I think, that rejects its extremists first and hardest, I think, is setting itself up for generational wins. And I want that to be the Democrats. They have to be moderates have to be able to tell the Democrats and the Republicans apart. And it became much harder for them to do so. And we scoff at that as pundits and things like that who watch these news every day. But for normies, it became very, very hard. Well, why should I care who wins, whether it's Harris or Trump? Both are the party of extremists. My life's not gonna be any better or worse either way. Foolish?
Well, is that not a messaging issue? Do you think that those are the same thing? Do you think the parties are the same?
I agree with you. It's a messaging issue, and my prescription to solve this messaging issue is to denounce and expunge the extremists publicly, loudly, and meanly.
But Wick, if you look at the polling data is not, I mean, for the right wing, sure, that Kamala is too radical, she's too they, them. But if you look at like a lot of the people who sat this election out, which again, I think if you look at the numbers, it's 20 million fewer votes for Kamala versus like the few million that the Republican Party gets. It's not, oh, we thought Kamala was too extreme. It's, hey, I don't feel seen by this. It wasn't, oh, she's too pro-progressive, she's too pro-Israel Gaza. It was, hey, Kamala is not addressing the working vote, she's not addressing healthcare prices, she's not addressing the economy in a way that I think is substantially going to be different. And I don't think this is in any way means that if she had come out and been like, hey, everyone, just so you know, I'm not a crazy radical socialist. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of already what they did. That was the whole campaign. It was, hey, I'm just like Biden, the guy who, I don't know why you said that, like, there's this reciprocal extremism. Biden's whole thing was, let's return to normalcy. Let's get back to the middle. Let's go back to the status quo. And she kind of, agreed with that. It's like, hey, I'm not going to do anything substantially different. Maybe I'll be a little more left, but there was not this push from her campaign to go super far left. Now, yeah, sure, maybe she didn't denounce ultra super far lefties constantly, and I just don't think that would have made a difference. It's clearly these people who don't feel heard, not that they're like, she's too crazy, although that is what the right wing was going to vote for regardless. So
yeah, I think we can split the difference here.
I'm sorry, could I actually
don't mind.
just get in? Okay, fine.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's really fast. I was just going to say that, actually, Soypal, I wanted to build off your point. Did you actually know that there was an exit poll after this election that showed that voters tended to believe that Kamala was actually closer to the center than Trump was, but just this election, they were feeling more center-right. So they were, like, relatively closer to Trump, but they felt that Kamala was less extreme.
The exit
polls... There is actually a poll on it.
Well, here's the thing. No, I agree with that. That's probably true, but the exit polls poll people who vote. We're talking, and Soypill's point is a lot of people stayed home and did not vote. So that would not be reflected within the exit polls.
Let's go to Nina here. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Just split the difference here with, I think, with the messaging and also with like understanding that we should do more to, like, I guess, not necessarily. I don't want to say that we should like condemn the extremists because I don't think that's going to get anywhere. But I think one of the big issues here also is that we don't have anything really to work towards. And I think that you develop these extremists in your party because they are so wanting to have something to, like, some message to be kind of like to advocate for, that they kind of get a little mixed up. You know what I mean? So I think that, again, when it comes to, it's both a messaging problem, and the reason why these extremists tend to crop up is because they tend to attach to an extremist voice because they're at least advocating for something. You know what I mean? Like, again, that goes to the status quo thing, right? Like, when you're advocating for something that's a message, that's why Bernie Sanders generally has been so popular, because he's not perfect, but he's got a message and people want to rally behind it.
That's what I meant earlier, by the way, when I was comparing like Newsom to those other ones, right? Newsom seems like he's gonna just parrot your middle America, your like middle ground, target points, right?
Trash.
But like versus like Hassan or whatever, he's going out there and he's saying, these are my crazy stances, I stand by them, right? Like, I think that's kind of the point that I was making earlier with what you put it a little more.
Kirsten Sinema's the same way as Newsom. They blow with the political wind. You could always tell where the party's going based on what they're campaigning on for their current campaign. And Kirsten Sinema was big on border security this time around.
Right, exactly. That's what I was worried about earlier. That's what I was saying earlier, is that, like, I think actually having some stable positions is legitimately important for Democrats.
You guys want to get into that issue? Because that was Biden's largest unforced error. We were gaslight about it for 3 years. AOC went on the news multiple times.
Sounds like you want to look into it.
Says it was a right-wing lie. And then 9 months before the election, a bill that would only reverse the changes that Biden made through executive order came out. And all he had to do was reverse his own executive orders to fix it, which he ended up doing anyways.
I don't know, like, Biden on immigration, he actually deported a lot of people. Like, we forget about, especially with the Title 42 deportations. I think it was Title 42. I could be wrong on the numbers. Please forgive
me.
He threw the giantest worm into a pond, and you just took a big bite of it, by the way.
That's really another issue. She brought it up. She brought it up. I just doubled down on it. I did not. It was the number one election issue, according to two exit polls.
I understand, but I don't think that, I heard much about immigration until about a year.
They shipped them.
About a year before the election. Yeah. That's when a lot of people started really pounding that. But.
Yeah, well, there was a 3-point gap between people that side with Republicans and people that side with Democrats, and Democrats knew they were in for an ass whooping in the election. They completely shifted their narrative. Joe Biden ran on asylees surging the border, and one of the first things he did in office was lower the criteria you need to apply for asylum, We saw when Obama did that in 2009 through an order that he gave to the DHS that fraud went up almost 10 times what it was at the moment. It was allowing fraud.
Well,
Trump closed that loophole. Biden reopened that loophole and then said we need a new bill that would put catch and release into law. And if you don't pass this new bill, there's nothing we can do. Trump comes in and does it without the bill or any more money. So,
honest question, I'm missing the relevancy.
Well, this brings back to like
gaslighting.
I can make it really relevant, right? This comes back to the cats and dogs thing, right? I know that once again that was pretty hyperbolic, right? Like they weren't actually
They
eating
lie.
cats and dogs, but or outright lie, whatever. But it does bring attention to this issue, and all of a sudden now all these Republicans are talking about, hey, they actually changed the app system for asylum seekers. We should look into this, yada yada. And now it's a talking point. I don't feel like Kamala ever had. Like, even though it was a bad moment, it ended up kind of like he could spin it into a win. Versus, like, I don't know that Kamal ever had that. Because I don't know. Like, he's like straight from the hip. Like, I don't know. Is that the problem? Like, we don't have. Is everybody too formal now in the internet age of the internet, the edge of the like 30-second TikTok? Like, I don't know. What do y'all thoughts here?
Well, no, I think that plays totally into what I'm saying, which is like, yeah, it
same.
doesn't matter if you, just let them get away with this lie or whatever. If you're going to then let them shape the narrative on what your immigration policy is, like, what they should have been doing, and I mean, Tyler, you can argue about the effectiveness of that bill or whatever. They should have been hammering in that, hey, Trump, like, we tried to do something about this and Trump canceled it. And they're, I think the Republican narrative on that could have easily been, hey, we want this canceled. We think this will just, sway voters a little bit, but Trump's going to be the real solution. But they didn't. They just said, actually, no, that's totally made up. And no one ever pressed them on it. No one ever like tripled down on these questions in the media, like, hey, you got this border bill killed, didn't you? Why did you do that? They just are really, really bad at shaping this. And it's like they're allowed, the Republicans, I'm sorry, they're just fucking better at media spinning and getting away with all this stuff. And like Democrats suck at it.
I agree. And
with the bill was Biden's executive orders that he put into place in February in 2021. I will link you the exact executive order.
No, I know what you're talking about. He got rid of the Remain in Mexico, right?
3 years and 2 months later, he asked Congress to write a bill to close the loophole that his executive order opened and tried to shift the burden to the GOP after 2-3 years of saying there was no border crisis. I can give you Democrats going on the news, multiple of them, surrogates of the Biden administration going on the news, multiple of them, all sorts of people saying there is no border crisis. It's right-wing racism. And then as soon as it became a problem, hell yeah, there's a border crisis, and Donald Trump's the reason why. It's gaslighting.
So just to be clear,
Biden
Biden was willing to give up something that he started, like conditional on the cooperation of Republicans, and what? I mean, that sounds like
Did he say that?
Negotiation.
Did you guys know that? I had to tell you that.
No, I knew that.
Yeah.
Biden didn't say that. Nobody in the administration said that. They didn't say we're undoing our policy. They just silently did it. Once the bill didn't pass, he went back and unreverted his own executive order.
But I'm just curious how this matters. Like, I'm being serious. I just don't understand because like my understanding of what you just told me is like Biden passed something and then he said to Republicans, hey, I'll do like a horse trade with you on a bill. Like if you guys help, like
I ran on something,
like that's just regular
something, passed something. It was extremely unpopular.
And then the Republicans said, no, we're not going to horse trade on this thing that would help.
Yeah. Well, so let me try to reiterate. I think maybe your point's getting lost a little here, Tyler. Let me try to So what I think he's trying to say is, right, okay, here's the facts, right? There's certain set of facts, that's the undisputed facts. And then it was presented to the public a certain way that were like just straight up gaslighting. Basically, they were just being lied to, and people like saw through it because the facts were pretty basic. Like, you didn't have to be a political scientist to understand, okay, he did this, then he reversed it. This is clearly his fault kind of thing. But the messaging was like suddenly it was somebody else's fault, right? And it seems dishonest. Like, it seemed like a mass overall gaslighting. To maybe a lot of moderates.
I want to jump in here, Gibbs, because it wasn't.
No, that's the point I think he's trying to make.
I understand that, Tyler. The idea of like, well, you caused this problem. How do we get out of it? And like maybe you could. I think there's merit to saying, oh, did they not acknowledge it, right? Like, to the degree it was a crisis, yeah, there's millions of people there, but like to the degree that the Republicans were presenting this as like, yeah, there's tens of thousands, if not millions, of illegal immigrants coming in. They're all committing crime. This is the worst thing ever. Our cities are on fire. Like, this is the narrative from the right, and that's why this was such a big issue with people. To the degree to which it actually affected people, I think is much, much less so. And specifically, it's silly because if you look and if Biden comes out and says, hey, this was a mistake, this executive order, the Remain in Mexico policy, we tried to get rid of it because it was causing this conflict and stuff in Mexico, and we thought maybe this was inhumane, but it caused this big surge at the border. Well, well, now I'm trying to solve it, and this guy's not letting me solve it. We have bipartisan agreement between two parties to say, hey, we can both reverse this and put a bunch more money into process asylees quicker, to do XYZ thing. And they didn't let them do that. And I think the messaging, the failure to call out Trump and say Trump is making sure that we are not able to solve this problem that we have bipartisan agreement on, that was way overshadowed by, hey, look, there's so many illegals, they're everywhere, they're burning people on trains.
The immigration was a losing issue for Democrats in the 2024 election. I'll just stipulate to that and agree with you. Yes, it was a losing issue for multiple reasons, messaging partly, and partially because we did fuck up on that. It's just true. But here's the deal. I think that when it comes to the public's perception, because remember, the topic is why are Democrats losing, right? One of the reasons the Democrats lost and are losing is because they were seen as gaslighting, as you guys were saying, as I think Gibbs was saying. And I think that this is, again, the reason it gives me hope, as I said in my opening statement, is because people are seeing that, oh, Trump's lying too. Trump's incapable of doing this and fixing this problem. And that's why his numbers on immigration and approval ratings on immigration are tanking from when he took office. They're tanking. It's because people are seeing more and more how he's handling the deportations, and they're like, I don't want this. I don't want anything to do with this. This is crazy. And I think that people are fleeing from this. Now, again, he could reverse course. There's still time for him to reverse course. Will he? That's the question. If he wanted, like, for example, the stipend program that he recently if he had started with that, I think he'd still be up 20 points on immigration, right? But because he decided to send people to the foreign torture prison with no due process, people were like, no, we don't want that, right? That's not something we want. And I think that, like, the same problem that Democrats had in the last election, the Republicans are going to have in the coming elections. And it's going to be worse because here's the deal. Trump can't govern. He's proven incapable. He cannot fix any of the problems. Look at India, Pakistan.
I agree with you.
He sent G.A. Vance to disarm that, to diffuse that, to try to get that toned down. Didn't work at all.
But Wick, what you're saying is true, and the idea of this, like, oh, Trump is polling numbers are dropping, and the reason that's happening right now is, one, I think when the material conditions start affecting people and they see, oh, tariffs make my life worse. Oh, my family is getting deported. Yeah, or I get fired by Doge, all these hundreds of thousands of layoffs. They're like, wait, this fucking sucks. So it doesn't matter, how much he lies if they believe him. But as soon as they see that it's not true, it doesn't matter, because now it's like, oh, okay, like, I'm materially affected by this. But two, I think the media has actually at least tried and is doing a better job of saying, hey, look, this guy's getting deported without due process. This is fucking insane. And that is causing that you see in these, like, Republican town halls. People are like, hey, I don't think this should be happening. When are you going to go bring that guy back? Like, that is part of the messaging problem. But so that is kind of like a two factor thing where, yeah, material conditions are going to matter. And I think people just weren't happy with, during the Biden years, partially because of COVID, but for other reasons. And if the same things happens with Trump and we're able to stick to the messaging, that's actually going to be how we win that election. So
I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I just want to clarify because I didn't get cut off there. I wasn't calling soy pill a gaslight. I was saying that the narrative he was prescribing. No,
you were calling me that.
The narrative you were prescribing. You and Shenandoah are wonderful gentlemen. I would never
called
say
you a bitch like too. I hear.
I wouldn't. I said that the narrative you were prescribing them to use would have been gaslighting.
You had no nipples.
The Senate bill had poison pills in it. They had things like stantifying catch and release into law, allowing Republicans to stop getting rid of it when they took power. So stay in Mexico would have been illegal. They would have forced catch and release on the president. There was also a provision in there that the emergency powers to close the border, there was about a non-emergency version of it that Biden was going to do. They agreed, I think, about 5,000 people a day coming over, they were going to do it. That was a power the president had the entire time. This bill would have taken that power away from the president, but only after 18 months after this bill's passed. So basically, once Biden left office, this power was stripped away from the president. It also had money for Palestine in it and all sorts of other shit. The House at the time passed H.R. 2. This is the House's counteroffer. And usually how this goes is the House gets a bill, the Senate gets a bill, and they negotiate. Mike Johnson was held out of negotiations, and the Senate said they weren't even going to look at H.R. 2. You just have to pass that. Mike Johnson said this is dead on arrival because they would not let us have input on it. So they poison-pilled that bill intentionally just to have a narrative against Trump, and nobody believed it.
Do you think that the average person knew about that?
Not all the details. All they get to see at the end is, well, this immigration thing where totally doesn't exist.
You seriously think that impacted the election?
Yes.
I want to come back kind of what to
the number one issue on exit polls.
Well, soy pill was just saying. I don't know how exactly. You kind of got lost there, but like, okay. So on one hand, we have like the Dem leadership seems to be just dying, right? Like in the polling right now. Obviously, well, like Chuck Schumer's like 17%,
Mm-hmm.
and then we look at some of these things, like all this thing with the immigration and yada yada. Like, how do you see it going forward? Because I know y'all like, oh, we're losing the Republicans are like losing their moderates, but I think with like things like the Garcia thing, for example, right? He's kind of pandering to his base because he thinks the moderates aren't going to be that involved in the
Garcia?
midterms. What's his the guy that got
Abrego
departed?
Garcia, the
Yeah,
El
Reagan
Salvador
Garcia.
guy. Yeah.
But yeah, so,
Wait,
so like
you said no. You said he's pinning to his base.
He meant
Trump is
Trump
pandering.
doing
Trump is
that is him
Oh,
pandering.
pandering to his
Gotcha.
base, right?
Gotcha.
Like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
why,
I
like,
was looking
this is
for
why,
Alberto
like,
Garcia is campaigning in the El Salvador.
yeah, he's full Trump. Yeah. He's like, yeah, but no. So I'm like saying my bird's eye view. This is kind of what I'm seeing, right? So it seems like he's pandering to his base, and like all the people are like, yeah, that's what I voted for. Those also are probably in my mind, probably the same people that'll show up midterms. Versus with Dims right now, it seems even though y'all are like pointing to these things, there doesn't seem like there's a plan. Like even in my here, we all been kind of like amongst yourselves figuring that out and debating. It doesn't seem like there's a plan, and y'all's current leadership is at like 17%. Like Schumer's awful
Because
so,
they don't
like,
have a plan.
who,
And that's
because there's no plan.
I
Who's
agree
gonna
with
lead?
you.
Like
We're
what do y'all see?
transition
What do y'all see
period.
going forward?
Give-
Yeah, what do y'all see as the light?
Yeah,
Better man.
so here's the deal. We need a plan.
What are
That's
these
absolutely
predictions?
true. One of the things that people are mad, Democrats are mad at the Democrats right now, is because they don't seem to have any effective, like they keep trying to decide what they want to do, but they need to pick a lane. They need to pick a strategy, and they need to run with it, right?
Well,
I have my
that's kind of what I
preferred
said in my
strategy.
opening, right? Like, I think that they're trying a lot of different approaches. Like, I've been seeing a lot of like people in the Democrats like that I've never heard of before that are going on like a bunch of different shows and stuff like that, like trying to get their message out there. And I think that we're working on seeing what's going to work because I think that's one of the issues, that Dylan brought up at the beginning with like not having the primary means that we didn't know what worked and what didn't work, right? Like we didn't have enough time to kind of figure out which messaging resonated with people and stuff like that. Like that's kind of the point, right, of having a primary. So I think that we're kind of doing that right now, but I understand the frustration, of course.
Now's the time,
I-
to be clear, to be doing this, to having
I
these
will
fights
Right,
when we
right.
don't have elections coming up right around the corner.
Mhm.
We have to make sure to figure out as a party what we want to do. I know what I would advocate for. I think that one of the biggest problems that Democrats have is they lack genuineness. Like people see them as manufactured.
That's kind of what I was saying.
I mean,
They
yeah,
see
I
them
think
come
that's
off a
the
little
biggest
too
problem.
polished,
I'm
sure.
They
not
see
even
them
kidding.
as
It's a big
someone
part.
who's been
Mhm.
focus grouped to death. We need people to go out and I'm saying this slightly hyperbolically, but only slightly. They need to start going out and calling people retards, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
can't
No,
steal
you
my
can't.
point. That's
Hey,
my
yeah,
point.
Okay? They
That's
need to
also my
start
point,
going
but
out
it's kind of more
and
is.
just being more human. They need to be
Yeah,
someone
Jasmine
that
Croc
they
with the
don't
Hot
need.
Wheels.
They
Yeah.
need to push back against like the fucking messaging machine, right? They need to just be like, I'm not gonna say that shit. That's bullshit.
Yes, but not yet.
Josh Shapiro is who I would pick. Like he's my guy. I live in Pennsylvania, full disclosure, right? I'm biased, but Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania has really good approval from both the left and the right. Obviously, the right likes him less, but he's still, a lot of people I know who voted for Trump also voted for Shapiro, right? They like what he's
Yeah.
doing here. They like how he's getting things done. He doesn't get super involved in the culture war shit. All he does is stick to the bread and butter issues, the things that he thinks are important for his state and his constituency. And I think that that's the path going forward. The future of a successful Democratic Party lies in the Northeast, not in the West Coast.
Whitmer or Fetterman's my pick, but generally I agree with you. I
No,
just think
Fetterman's
they don't
better.
need to do this right now. Not right now. They need to do this. They have a higher their base right now is higher propensity voters that are going to come out more likely for special elections and off-year elections. They need to spend the next year and a half being this extremist party, pushing those people out to those elections, and then as soon as the midterms are over, then they need to pivot back to the center in the way you're suggesting. That's the smartest political move.
Honestly, I think the entire reason that people like Schumer are just so extremely low in the polls is, as we've already said, that they don't really have a plan. But I would double that plan is like, the little plan they even have is like this capitulationist plan. And obviously that's extremely upsetting and demotivating for Democrats. I actually do think this is a big reason why a lot of Democrats stayed home during the election, because they sort of feel like their party is like kind of fucking weak and like doesn't actually fight.
Absolutely.
And, and it's like even again they don't have to be socialists
They're too
necessarily
soy,
to do
if
that,
you will.
but they are too. He said the thing. He said his name. I can't believe it. That was the titular line. But anyway, yeah, basically, he needs. I honestly think that like the main reason Schumer and co are just like so extremely unpopular is they just need to fucking go for it, man. Honestly, and I can't like name any specific person right off the bat right now. I'd have to go look, but. Yeah, I would love to see a fighter. I really, really would.
I'd really like to see AOC as party lead. Like, I don't necessarily think that she's got like president status, but I absolutely could see her like, like House Speaker and or like party lead type position, like taking over.
Democrat senator. That's about as far as she's.
What about you, Joe? What do you think? What do you think they need to do? Who should they put forward?
Who we should put forward? I don't think it should be Josh Shapiro. I don't think it should be JB Pritzker. Even though I like the mannerisms of JB Pritzker, I like the way he presents himself. I think running a billionaire against a billionaire is giving up too much tax base. We should not be running the rich against the ultra rich. I think the Democrats need to project themselves as the party of the working class, and that means not just like, hey, this guy fights for the working class even though he's a billionaire. Just you can run somebody who has working class roots. It's one of the most favorable portions of Biden's personality was the fact that he doesn't have extremely like royal political roots. This is somebody who had, relative to the people in Congress, a semi-working class background from Scranton. And that was something that actually performed very well in the area that I'm from. I'm from Maryland. I have family in Delaware, and that's at least the image that they had of him, and that led to him doing okay in this region of the country. And I'm not saying that Biden is like, we need to do everything Biden did, but what I'm saying is we need to run somebody that can present in that manner. And I think John Fetterman can present in that manner when it comes to being working class. But I think as of recent, I just don't know if he is focusing on the issues that we need to be in order to transform the country. I really don't.
He's focusing on getting his wife killed by speeding on the highway, apparently.
That was a hit piece. Good. Come on.
That was a hit piece?
It was a hit piece.
Did he or did he not do it?
He did it, but it was a hit piece.
He did.
88 fast, dog. You should see me drive.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he does seem to be getting more unstable, I will say. Like, he is also just having trouble collaborating with other Democrats, which is like one of the reasons I was always like a little bit skeptical of Bernie, is that like I wasn't sure if he was able to play ball with the rest of his party, which can make things really hard. Like, even, say Bernie's good or bad, that's just like a fucking.
I don't like this. It's all identity.
Yeah, and AOC is like the reason the left hates her. The extremists that Wick wants to call out don't like her.
Make too much money. They probably have to be white. They probably have to be a man, right? No, come on, cut that shit.
I don't think I would say that.
Right, this identity.
I mean, let's get that fucking guy who announces basketball. I can't fucking remember his name.
I mean, it is part of that.
Stephen Smith or
I don't think it's all identity, but I do think. I mean, when Trump has the richest man in the world working for him, trying to reshape the government unconstitutionally in many facets, I think that running another billionaire against him is kind of leaving just completely ignoring an attack strategy. I understand like JB Pritzker might have a good personality, but no, I like. Here's my problem with it. The reason it stuck with me is, remember JB Pritzker speaking at the DNC and getting up there and saying, "Hey Donald, I'm a real billionaire," and I could not stop rolling my eyes.
Yeah, or Bloomberg. Like, look how poorly Bloomberg did, no matter how much money he
dumped into it. Narrative writes itself.
I was gonna say, to add to that, it's already. I feel like the Dems already have like a perception as the party of the rich now. Like
right.
People, I hear every day it's flipped, kind of thing. And
academia is more how I put it. It's not just the rich; it's the elite. It's everything trickling down from college.
It's a
Do you guys think that Newsom is a good candidate?
Actually, unironically, the question to me, by the way, was who I'd run. I would run a Waltz type again. Honestly, I would run them as the main ticket, not as the vice president. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would.
Waltz type or him?
I didn't say Waltz. I said a Waltz type. I think that the pathway they were going with Waltz was good. I don't know if he's the final draft though.
Yeah.
I think more like folksy.
Hold on. What do you mean by the
folksy might be one way.
What do you mean by like the kind of like the
weird is the right way?
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Dylan? What about the Waltz type? do you mean? Like,
that he has like teeth, right, Dylan? Like the idea that he's like he's more
I
genuine.
want to see what Dylan
part
says.
of it is
He's
teeth.
authentic and he
Part of
fights.
it. When I grew up, I was raised by like a granddad who castrated pigs on the farm growing up, and then went to Nam at like 17, right? And so if he had an opinion, he was on the couch, he would say it like that guy's a moron, or he would, and the way it would come off was very authentic because it's just the way that he talked as an everyday guy. And when Waltz at the start said, these guys are weird about the weird things that JD Vance and the other people, it came off extremely authentic. It hit well. That it is weird. It is freakish. These guys do have some really strange niche policies that they've expressed on these platforms. And I think that communicated well. And I think that the fact that, and people can laugh at it all they want, they call it unauthentic, but him running around in camo with a shotgun, say, look, I hunt, look, I fish. I do think that was communicated well, generally enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, his job isn't to win the fucking, the Boogaloo Boys. His job is to win the Elmer Fudd type who's like, I like a gun, but I don't necessarily think red flag laws are the worst thing in the world. That's the type of guy that he can win over. Let's not pretend we're going to win over the militiamen. And
he needs to win over
I'm not saying Waltz was
demographic.
perfect in this. What I'm saying is that these are qualities that they obviously thought about when they chose Waltz. And if they keep going in that direction, I think they could run a good main ticket person.
Beer drinking Democrat.
This is where it comes back to the manufactured thing, right? And I think you just did the thing, because like when I heard Wall say weird, and then I was like, who? Then I looked into him. I'm like, this is one weird fucker. Just however he moved around, he like creeped me out. I don't know what it is. And it's not just my unbiased opinion, like my biased opinion. Something about him, sus, right? And then I see him in these photos of him in the camo and he's hunting, and I'm like, this is the most manufactured shit I've ever seen. Like, if he was like authentically doing that, yeah, but like nobody believes he's out there. And if they do, they believe he's out there with Dick Cheney. Like, and how much hunting is that really? Like, no, I don't know. I didn't buy it, and like maybe that's because I am more like in the hunter variety. But even if they're like the Elmer Fudd type hunter, I feel like a lot of them are gonna be like, yeah, he said weird to get ahead of him. This guy's not really one of us.
The weird wasn't. Well, you're marketing to multiple people. The Democrats win off of big tent party politics. The Democrats never win because they particularly won with women or they particularly won with this one group. It's that, well, even though that can help, it's by building a bunch of little tents and making it into one big tent. That's why it's called the Big Tent Party. And so I'm not saying that he needs to like convince every gun owner he's the most authentic gun owner on the planet. He needs to convince them that he's not going to go in their gun shed and take away the 3 rifles they have as a casual gun over. That's what he needs to convince them of. And that, I think, someone of his ilk could do much better. As when it comes to the weird was supposed to be an attack strategy that communicated a vibe-based feeling that people feel when they hear certain things from Trump's past or certain things about a lot of these, we could say, dark web intellectual types, like opinions that are coming out about like fuck, I don't want to get into the old fucking Jesus Christ. I don't want to get. The election was almost a year and a half ago. I can't even remember what it was at the time. What actually initiated the weird attack? I can't remember.
I think
JD Vance's couch. JD Vance's couch.
Yeah, those were the.
It was the AP falsely reporting that was in the first copy of his book and then retracting it a week later.
And to be fair, I think the weird thing was to a degree manufactured. Obviously, he had to go through and figure out, hey, what am I allowed to call these people without it being too much for the Democratic Party? There was absolutely a panel discussion about that. I'm sure that happened. But I don't think that means it's not authentic, because he did feel that way and it did resonate with a lot of people. And that is actually when they were polling the best, when people thought, oh, what the fuck? We have a non-muzzled change candidate that is now going to come out and say things. And then it's all of a sudden, by the time the VP debate rolls around, it's, oh, actually me and you agree on a lot, JD Vance, and I know I called you the party of weird extremists who's going to take away all our rights, but I think we can find middle ground, and it's fucking sucked. And everyone was like, oh, you're just a status quo like limp dick soy boy, like this isn't great. So
Fetterman's already got those
shut up, man. It was exactly the same. It was fucking great.
Fetterman's already got those credentials, though. And not only is he one of the most popular Democrats right now, but he was one of the only Democrats willing to vote on H.R. 2, which was the Republican version of the Senate bill that came out. He was the only Democrat willing to vote for the Laken Riley Act. He reaches across the aisle on a lot of these issues. On top of that, he's a big labor guy, and the South is full of laborers. There's a 2022 Bloomberg study that shows labor voters, a fucking core vote for 1960 Democrats is like voting 3-1 right now for Republicans. If they can peel those back, and Fetterman can do that, he's the right guy.
Honestly,
well,
I
I mean, look,
I feel like if he did actually become popular, negative polarization would like just fucking sweep up, and he would be unable to like do bipartisan shit. It would just be impossible. Like if you become the fucking Democratic nominee, like the country's just so polarized, it doesn't even fucking matter.
Being
man is
electable
roped
is
out.
one thing, but look. Let's say he gets elected by saying I'm the bipartisan guy, and I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm gonna say it's unlikely. But let's say we can attempt to do that in this environment. Okay, he gets in there. What does he do then in a bipartisan fashion with this political divide? And so I'm. It's one thing. I want early
Yeah, that as well.
Fetterman talking about transformative ideas more. If I could see more from Fetterman that sounds like what got him to beat Mehmet Oz, even though he had a stroke on the campaign trail, and
Yeah.
less, I think, choosing on the specific issues on how to differentiate himself from the rest of the Democrats. What I'm hearing right now when it comes to like sticking out on Israel, if I'm to believe that this is him going through some political transformation or like marketing transformation, and it's not his brain decaying as like some of his staff is alleging and through these reports, I have no clue, so I can't say one way or the other. I'm assuming he's trying to say, look at me, I'm not your average Democrat. I can like push against the grain, probably in a way that Wick described and kind of he wanted from, the Democratic Party to maybe act more like how Fetterman is. But I don't know how that performs in a Democratic primary. And I also don't know if that means he still can deliver those not performative, but those transformative ideas that would get people excited about the Democrats. Because if it's just gonna be like, I love Israel and he's gonna like fight his like the left. I need to see more of early Fetterman and not more,
Now
fighting
Fetterman.
on the internet. Of now Fetterman.
I mean,
I
also,
definitely
you
don't
say
want to
you-
give them the attack of like another brain damaged candidate. You know what I mean?
This
Well,
is
I was
one
gonna
of the
say that.
things.
I was gonna say what he said. You said performative, but I think like as like misspeak. But I think that's actually an appropriate word too. If you could come out and be performative and like be competitive in some of these like showings, then I think that would help him quite a bit in the against the his brain is rotting allegations. You know what I'm saying?
One of the
As
I don't
well.
know. I feel like it would get pushed so hard. It is an easy one because it is very.
There's gonna be
public
pushed no
record.
matter what.
Yeah,
Just
I
question
feel
is
like
if
and
he
it's just like,
use it.
oh, they ran Biden. Well, now they're running another retard.
Right.
Oh,
They did
weird.
that. They did that though.
Shadow
They literally
cabal.
did that to
It's
him.
the
It
shadow
didn't
cabal
work.
running it. Yeah.
difficult-
He
that's
had
a good
a
point.
stroke
The deep
right
state.
before the primary, and they hid it from the primary voters. So there was a lying
Yeah.
allegation involved in it. He still won, and he's still popular. And it's looking like he's probably going to win if he runs for re-election as well. He's one of the most popular Democrats right now. So he did exactly what you said.
The
The
difficulty
most popular Democrats is a very low bar.
with
right
this
now, unfortunately.
conversation, right, is that we need to have a primary to decide because we are mostly Democrats here, right? Or at least voting for Democrats in general. And we have, I think, as this panel has demonstrated, remarkably different views on how to move forward. Until that is allowed to have a dialogue and a vote, not a poll, but an actual vote where we can count up and tally them, it's going to be a lot of like, well, I think this, I think that, speculate. Again, I think that my advocacy here for a Josh Shapiro type, it doesn't have to be him specifically, but I think it should be him specifically. That might change based on what happens in the next 3 years, the next 4 years. And I think that we need to, one of the things that I'm advocating for today is a principle. And that principle is condemn extremism, police your own, appeal to the other side. Those 3 things.
I want to start. So we're getting close to time here. I want to say one other thing here because you kind of brought up the 2020 whatever election 28. But let's talk about midterms. This is kind of interesting with what Soypill just said with how unpopular the Dems are. How do we see the results of the Dems playing out? Like I mentioned, Trump's pandering his base. I think his base comes out and vote. Is this a situation where the Dems are not going to come out and vote because they're so dissatisfied with their party, or what are y'all thinking here? Or is it a thing where they come out and vote droves and replace people in like primaries and for those? What are y'all thoughts?
I think
Any kind of wild guess?
I think that
I'm expecting
unfortunately,
a blue wave.
yeah,
Personally.
if I say this is unfortunate because it won't require us to learn any lessons. I think we need to, but I think that the way that Trump is governing right now, we could run Biden again and he'd win.
Probably.
That's probably true.
It's just that's how bad Trump is doing.
Trump is still up 12 points on the economy from Biden. So,
Bill, what do you think about that? Do you agree with that
It
statement?
doesn't matter. People are unsatisfied.
And he would win now?
that's what they're unsatisfied with is his economy. They like his border. Especially if you split up border policy and the immigration. Like Fox News does. He has like a 60% border policy right now. It's his immigration that disagrees.
Tyler, I think by November, like tariffs are gonna fuck people so hard that I think you literally could put like Biden's corpse in the chair and they would vote for it.
You
like
could
it's gonna
run
be really
President
bad.
Sunday
Yeah, we're gonna
and
have
he'd
small
win,
businesses.
You could
that
run
are
Hassan
really gonna go
and
out of
he'd
business.
win,
They spent their life.
70% of the country likes tariffs.
No matter what, my point here
they
is
don't.
that no
What?
matter who we put up against Trump, unless things change, unless he reverses course, unless there's some black swan event, right? Maybe Iran attacks Israel or something, and there's something crazy that happens. It does not matter. Trump's party will fucking lose, and it won't be close.
I love this argument, by the way, guys. The trickle down to own Trump. The Democrat Party was in favor of free trade about 20% before the election. Now they're up to 55% once Trump put tariffs in. Something that Barack Obama did and ran on. Something that most Democrats have done besides Bill Clinton, the new Democrat. Other than that, tariffs were a left-wing policy. I can give you the 10 different instances of Bernie Sanders advocating for them the exact same way Trump was. Or Joe Biden.
Are you
Trump's
even
tariff to like any other?
Yes, I am.
Obama, Hillary
Yeah, they
Clinton
did
wanted to
10% tariff.
Okay, if you're making an argument of scale, that's not what you said. So if you want to shift the goalpost there, then yeah, the scale is bigger, but that's not
I don't even know what you're responding to.
It's not
Obviously, we're talking about Trump tariffs, not the concept of a tariff. I mean, if you can look at like who's more free trade.
Okay, well, if you want to break those down, I've
hold
done
on, Tyler, hold on. No, what were you saying? You look like you were trying to get in there.
Who? Me?
I thought Dylan was speaking there.
Oh fuck! Okay.
Mike.
Yeah, Dylan's not gotten. My bad. Dylan's not gotten a lot of time.
Did you want to comment there?
Honestly, it was such a mess that it slips my mind. Give me a second.
No, you're good, man. Like, just don't even try.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, yeah, we could go ahead and wrap up here anyway. It's about that time, perfect timing, because I got another panel here in about 20 minutes going to host. So it's gonna be good times here. It's gonna be why are leaders we choose.
Oh, you know what? I remember what I want to say. This will be.
Go ahead and say it, and then.
Okay, my problem. Even if you are okay with tariffs, the rollout of the tariffs. This is the thing that confuses me. If you are the president of the United States, we control about 13 to 16% of China's export. Now, if we were to include our allies, you're talking about 65% of China's export. What he's doing is the problem of many different, I think, egotistical leaders in their position. He's decided to go on a one-man or one-nation crusade, deciding to institute tariffs against all these different countries at the same time. And in many instances, what he's ended up doing is pushing these nations together. The Chinese, the South Koreans, the Japanese, they've released multiple statements about deepening economic cooperation. The European Union is speeding ahead to try to get into place of us in the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the new expanded version that includes Australia and other Asian states in the region. And I think that you run the risk of giving up useful leverage and getting our allies to come along with us and going against those who are actually engaging in unfair trade practices against the United States in order to make this scattershot statement at the start of your tariff policy. I mean, was it really that necessary to tariff Penguin Island or put a 10% tariff on Ukraine for some reason because of one of their trade policies towards us that I am not familiar with, or the Vietnamese 90% assessed tariff rate that is not in at all relation to their tariff rate because they had an existing tariff rate of 1.1%. So if this was done with a little bit more clarity so you could show where the American interests lie, and it was done, I think, with more coordination with American allies, we might have actually been able to get more concessions. But I think what we're going to end up finding is that there'll be a few states that probably concede a certain amount up front to avoid the whole crisis. But I think the majority of nation states are not going to make big concessions, and I don't think it's going to be worth it. Not because it was impossible that we could use tariffs effectively, but I think the president might actually poison the word tariff as a potential tool for future presidents through his misuse of them, and that's my fear.
Well, that's one guess, but at the end of the day, we're starting to see a lot of results. We got 40 deals on the table, 18 coming out within the next 2 weeks.
Wait, 40 deals on the table isn't a result. It means you're having a conversation. And that's see with this conversation with the Russians. nothing's signed until it's
Okay,
signed,
so,
right?
yeah, you're right, but like, so what? It's
What?
working towards
What do you mean,
something. You're making
so
a
what? I'm
prediction.
saying we don't
You're
have a
making a
result yet, so we can't
prediction.
judge it.
Yes,
I am making a prediction, and we
I'm
have to
making a
wait.
prediction as
So,
well. This is also my prediction as well.
okay.
Mhm.
Good. All right. Cool. Good. Okay. All right. So we got his prediction. Dylan, why don't you go ahead and tell him where to find you, what you do, and we'll just go start closing from there.
You can find me in the general Donetsk area. If you want to find my work, you can find it.
Don't tell them
Uh,
that.
You can
Yeah.
find
Don't
it in
What-
you can
what
find
your-
it
what's your
Dylan Burns
Latin
TV
log?
on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm releasing a documentary this Saturday, Embedded with Skaval, which are Ukrainian convict units. Basically, they're soldiers from the Ukrainian prison system who have signed contracts for their freedom in exchange for military service. And I talk to them about their experience, the nature of the contracts, what they're going through, finding some of the hardest parts at the front. So people want to go check that out, they can. Also released an article 3 days ago with Offbeat Research, interviewing a deserter from the Ukrainian Armed Forces from the 155, if anybody wants to read that.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's cool stuff. Well, I'll definitely check it out. Tyler, go ahead.
Average debate enjoyer. Again, you can check out my citation document. Everything that's blued out is stuff I mostly got to today. There was a lot I didn't get to as well. I tried to address people. I'm going to leave that off the bottom there. But otherwise, I really think like we kind of agreed generally. We disagreed on specifics. Everyone agreed we need to stand up and push away the extremists. It's just we disagree with what the extremists are. I say it started at gender theory. Other people are saying it started with terrorist support for Palestine. So whatever. We're disagreeing on what the bar is. I'm using polling data, and other people are using Fifi. So I think that I kind of took the W in that. Otherwise, come check me out. Thanks for the hype train. And Gibbs' panel coming up after this is a lot more fun. Stick around for that shit.
All right. Well, all panels are fun. Thank you so much for being. Nina, go ahead.
My bad. All lives matter, Gibbs.
Okay. I'm on twitch.tv/Nina, Neeina. I know it's spelled weird. Thank you so much for inviting me on this panel. I think that we had a relatively productive conversation, except our boy over here seemed to want to talk about some unrelated shit. But I just to kind of do like a cap on it, I think that we are a lot in agreement on that the messaging needs to get better. We need to work towards that. And I hope we can have more conversations like this in the future, because I actually was really excited for this. And I wasn't really expecting it to be particularly combative, and it wasn't really. But I'd want to do something like this again if you're ever up to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure this is a convo that we can come back to. I know a lot of people had opinions and have been messaging me since we're going on, so I'm sure it'll be one that we can come back to in the future for sure. I'm sure that everybody's gonna be talking about it going forward. It's a pretty important convo. Shenandoah.
Hi, my name's Chairman Shenandoah. I stream on Twitch, and I'm fucking slowly building up my YouTube. Fucking nice to meet you guys. I was actually really happy to be here. Fucking great company. And I don't know, I'm just gonna restate my point. Media environment's fucked, and Democrat leadership is weak, and I want them to get some fucking balls. And that's it. I mean, fuck it. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, he wants them to be less soy pills. So let's go to soy pill.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think that this is a huge media narrative. Democrats are playing it way too safe. They think it's still 2016, where if they say a bad no word, that they're going to get canceled. And to a degree, it's true because we have people that are going to call them out, but they need to stop being scared of it and start acting more like not Donald Trump's policies, but Donald Trump's media messaging, which is I don't give a shit if one particular person calls me out. I'm going to say what resonates with most people. I'm going to be more authentic. And yeah, I agree. We do need a better primary process. We don't need to insert Kamala Harris 3 months before the election. She was not ready for that, and I don't think it worked very well. Agree with Dylan that we need someone a little more, not so toothless. But that the thing is, as much as I want more healthcare and more progressive policies, it seems to me that we don't necessarily need to be promoting a more Bernie-style campaign. We just need better messaging on those policies, and then we can start talking about whether or not we can pull people over to a Medicare for all. But yeah, we need to address the working class. We need to address healthcare prices. We need to talk about the things that fucking matter, and we're not doing it. Although I will say the DNC has reached out to me and other influencers to try to figure out what the fuck went wrong. So at least they know they fucked up. I'm the Soy Pill. You can find me at the Soy Pill at YouTube. I make video essays.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Mr. Wick.
Wick TV on YouTube, Twitch, Kick. Got some great things coming up. On Monday, I'll be teaming up with Pisco to debate the Misfit Patriot and Sean Farash on whether or not Trump is the greatest threat to the First Amendment, in America at least, that we've seen in a generation. I think he is, and I think I have a very strong case to make. Check us out then. It should be fun. Monday, it'll be later in the night, right? 9 o'clock instead of my normal time. That should be fun. As to the matter at hand, Dems, stop focus grouping shit. Just be a little more fucking human, okay? Be a little more fucking genuine. I think you'll be okay. We need to push out the extremism, show that we are the party that cares about people and not fucking ideologues, okay? And I think we'll be fine. I love you all. That's me.
All right. Well, yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, I look forward to more conversations in the future. And bye, everybody. We have another panel here in about 15 minutes. So
Goodbye.
I'll see you
I'm
later.
going to go do something. Y'all be
Bye.
good. Thank y'all.
Bye-bye.
I hope.
Okay, gang. Did you guys have fun? Did you guys like it? Here, I'll cancel the raid for a minute while I talk to you guys. Did I miss any super chats? True. Okay, so Deej Nut says for $2, Wick isn't yelling, he's just firm. All right, you know what? Actually, I didn't really get to read these. So $10 from Ben Riley to say, why are you yelling? That was to Tyler. I don't know why Tyler was so mad today. They would rather lose with Trump than win with a real social and economic progressive. True. And then 3, ranked choice popular vote seems force politicians to behave differently. Well, yeah, that's just trivially true, though. The way that the elections are decided will change a politician's strategy. That's correct. $2 from Deej Nuts to say, now that's what we call a tactical yell. Yes, I'm losing patience with people on occasion, right? And I think that people just need to be told to shut the fuck up more. $10 from Mo Thomas to say it would be fine to call out Hassan. People may not know of Hassan, but everyone knows someone like Hassan. The point is to call out the crazy viewpoint. True. And then $2 from another new account says nobody brought up Afghanistan. Why Dems lost? I don't think that was a reason why Dems lost. I think it was immigration. I think it was the economy, and I think it was the whole fucking shenanigans with Biden, Kamala, and all that. Yeah, I just don't see that as a reason. But maybe I'm wrong. Okay. No count Mike says I was wrong, like usual. I'm correct on this. Here's the deal, gang. Here's the deal. People there is a predictive power, or there's a power in predictions. You can tell or you can make judgments on someone's analytical power based on, in part, the accuracy of the predictions they make. I made a prediction when Biden got forced out that we had lost. That came true. I made a prediction in 2020 that Trump was going to lose. You guys, I wasn't online for that. You guys didn't see that, but I was just correct there. In 2018, I was correct. In 2016, I was correct. I was wrong in 2022. I thought the Republicans would take more. So it's not 100% on my end. I'm going to make another prediction for you. And I made this on the panel, but I want to reiterate it. And if anyone thinks I'm incorrect, then they'll free to tell me why, but I guess we'll find out. Midterms coming up, I think the Dems take it, and it won't be close. I think the Dems gain the House back, and I think the Dems gain the Senate back. That's my prediction. I think that, again, unless something drastically changes between now and then, I think people are waking up to the fact that whether or not they like the Democrats, Trump and his administration, how they are now, are incapable of governing. But we'll find out, right? Okay. Any more debates for tonight? No, we're going to raid out into Admiral Gibbs. I'm going to give you guys over. He was kind enough to host the panel, so he'll be kind enough to raid into him. I do love him, non-sexually, right? He's a good guy. He's a little annoying at times, but aren't we all? Aren't we all? So yes, I will talk to you guys Monday, because I'm taking tomorrow off. I might go see a movie. I love you all. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for the subs. Thank you for the bits. Thank you for the super chats. Why? Hold on. Did I not raid out properly? Hold on. Give me a second. Admiral Gibbs. Okay, the raid's created. It's going to take a minute. It'll get there. Okay, we're there. Bye.